everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you could only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by ComicBook Clique. And as you know, I am never alone. Sir, please introduce yourself.
I am Dan the Comic Man, ladies and gentlemen.
Dan the Comic Man has arrived here in studio, and we're going back into the web that is Spider-Man, talking a little bit about the Spider-Man, the animated series, particularly the 3-episode arc known as the Alien Costume. But before we get into all that 90s just love, how you been, Dan?
Oh, I've been great. It's been a good week. You know, now that Iron Fist is beyond me, now that which is worst is beyond me, I'm back to my regular broadcasted schedule of watching good things.
Oh, yes, exactly.
And then you hit me with this out of nowhere.
It was cool. I wanted to do something sort of nostalgic. We did the Daredevil Born Again, which was a 1980s comic. And we've done a lot of, like, I did, like, the 90s Captain America on here, but we rarely go into the animated stuff. This might actually be one of the first animated things that we cover here at the part of Major Issues. And,
as far as, like, nostalgia goes, or just all around, like, a series?
I think, like, all around in general.
Yeah, because we only reviewed Teen Titans Go to the movies. Other than that, this would be our first animated comic book series covering.
And Teen Titans Go to the Movies was a major theatrical release. So it was a little bit different than other animated things that come out, like Mask of the Phantom was also a theatrical release, but we've yet to do something like this before. So I'm excited for it. But in general, you know, what really came to mind when I started watching this stuff is how far we've gotten as far as how much comic book properties are accepted. From when I was watching that show at 5 years old, Spider-Man the Animated Series, to now. Now, I'm pretty sure you've seen it, and everyone who's listening to this has seen it, but they've already released some of the footage for the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie.
Yeah, the makeup and the still shots from the sets.
And in 1995, when I'm watching this animated series, I never would have thought in a million years that we would get our own solo Joker movie, and it just shows you how much the time has changed. Are you excited for this project?
I'm worried about a solo. What can you really do with a solo Joker story that doesn't involve Batman? I don't want to say that Joker's nothing without the Batman, because Joker is a character that can stand on his own. It's just it's hard to see him, especially running the streets of Gotham, doing chaos without the Dark Knight stopping him at least once, or at least making one appearance.
That's incredibly ironic, right? Because next month we get the Venom movie, and seemingly it's without Spider-Man, and it's the same
another
argument,
weird property.
It's like, what are you guys doing? Apparently, everybody who's not Marvel is just going to get us to fall in love with the villains first.
I mean,
I
guess.
I don't want Joker to be too romanticized, but the character is complex in itself to warrant its own. I guess to warrant its own. No,
it's become an iconic villain. It's like probably the most iconic villain in comic books. Right?
Well,
he's beloved and revered.
Yeah, especially since Heath Ledger's portrayal in The Dark Knight.
I mean, that really put it on a whole new level of, okay, now we can really do this with the Joker. We can take it to this angle. He doesn't have to be this campy Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson Joker. We can make him complex and dark, but still lovable and catching to the fans.
Yeah, and still gritty and grounded in realism. Less laughing gas and more just razor blades and TNT.
Well, I would love to see some acid spitting flower. I
want the Joker,
lapels.
the Jokerization to come back. When he used to Jokerize people and their mouths would get stuck in the permanent grin.
Yeah,
like,
they had that in Jack Nicholson's portrayal. Like
exactly.
That was he was selling cream on TV that was Joker cream.
Right, it had the Joker toxin in it, and it would make people have these weird outstretched grins. And you know, they even did it in the animated series. I mean, it looked grotesque, but could you imagine?
Yeah, they always laughed.
Yeah, could you imagine that now? Like people laughing to death, or that it could be really some sinister.
And with the level of makeup effects the special effects and makeup effects that we have today, you can definitely make it look like menacing and disgusting. Like you can crink their faces with so many creases and wrinkles.
Right. Make it almost inhuman.
Even the sound design can make it sound like their bones and their jaws is like morphing.
Or that there's pain and they're being forced to laugh. Like there's a lot of horrific things you could do with somebody who's forced to laugh.
Like look at Tim
death.
From the Return of the Joker in the Batman Beyond movie.
That's a good pull.
Where you see him like crying while he's laughing, and you see the tears coming down his face, and he's actually crying. Like you can tell you could tell he's crying, but you hear him laugh.
Yeah, you can't stop, and so that they can really get to there. I just hope that they don't romanticize him too much, create too much sympathy for the character. But then that almost, before we get into a deep discussion about stuff like that, but that, it brings to mind this whole idea of redemption of supervillains, right? Like, we live in a world now where we should feel that people are redeemable, right? Is one bad day, one bad act doesn't label somebody for life. If you believe in the good of humanity, then you kind of have to believe that people are redeemable.
Well, I also believe that some people are just evil just to be evil. Not everybody needs a redeeming quality. Like, there's theories going around that the Heath Ledger Joker is this PTSD army vet. That's why he has all these strategies and all these weapons. And I'm just like, why can't you just let some people just be evil for the sake of being evil? Not everything needs to be simplified. Not everything needs to be understand.
Right.
Some people are just born evil.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about the Rob Zombie's Halloween. Michael Myers. They even said it. Some people were just born evil.
I think Rob Zombie was kind of just born evil. Have you seen some of those movies? I don't even know how you think of half of the stuff that guy comes up with.
Well, that's also with Stephen King, another man who's probably born evil. Because if you read his books, almost everybody and every adult in his books are horrible.
Yeah.
There's always this weird '80s Stand By Me villain-esque.
Yeah.
You're
right.
Like, there's always bad things in a Stephen King book that's just, this man is weird.
A lot of that stuff, the Joaquin Phoenix stuff, seems to be filmed in New York. It was cool to see the train station scene that they're seemingly showing off.
I'm trying not to watch anything till the movie comes. Like, I couldn't stay away from seeing the pictures. It's literally all over everywhere I scroll. Like, at least 15 of my own Instagram friends have posted that picture of him with the clown makeup. So
I believe somebody from the movie Camp had come out and just basically said that a lot of the that they're upset about the level of paparazzi with this film, like every film, and so shots get snuck out and shots get taken when they're not supposed to.
It's hard to stop everybody. Somebody is gonna get. If somebody catches an angle, someone's gonna pull out a phone and someone's gonna take a picture.
Exactly, and so the idea is that, well, with all the bad photos out, we might as well release some actual stuff to.
Yeah, it's like the Deadpool. Test footage all over again.
But you remember the same thing happened with Shazam. When Shazam first came out, people were like, oh, I don't know about the outfit. I don't know how that looks, yada, yada, yada. And then even Zachary Levi, I did it last time. Was it Levi or Levy?
I think it's Levi.
He comes out and he's like, wow, you haven't seen the whole thing. Don't let these photos dictate your excitement.
Well, that's happened with a lot of, especially DC characters. It's happened like Grant Gustin's. When he first originally came out as Flash, I saw pictures of him from set. And I did not like it. It looked really like maroon, like burgundy.
Right.
And then the show came out and it was really red. So I was like, okay, at least they fixed it in post-production.
Yeah, so they definitely have time to save it. But DC, it's kind of odd that they're going in that direction. Like, a lot has come out of this. More has come out of this Joker film, this Joaquin Phoenix Joker film, then has come out of the supposed Green Lantern movie,
the supposed Batman movie,
Flash movie that's supposed to be on record on deck for DC for quite some time.
Because it's the Joker. This is the most popular villain. He sells tickets.
Yeah, he does.
Any movie that has the Joker in it is going to sell tickets. People went to see Suicide Squad with the initial thought that Joker was going to be a big part of that movie. Even I thought that Joker was going to be the villain of that movie.
Right.
Not hula hooping, dancing witches.
And I also, this seems to be a standalone tale, but with Marvel's way of telling stories, I wonder if the common fan will get confused with the idea that there's multiple of one person versus what's going on with MCU, where it's like that is just one story written large. Do you think the casual fan will be able to catch on to the fact that this is a one shot, kind of like how the original Batman films were?
Well,
right?
I would think because since Ben Affleck Batman was in Suicide Squad that had Jared Leto playing that Joker, I think fans would be able to tell, okay, this is a whole different continuity. This has nothing to do with the DCEU. If I can't believe they're calling it that, but I don't think fans will be. I think fans would be able to catch on that it has nothing to do with that specific universe. Like you're gonna watch Venom in theaters, and there'll be fans that know, okay, this isn't MCU. This has nothing to do with Thanos and Marvel and all that. Like, so
yeah. So I mean, the common fan, I think, could be able to pull that thread a little bit.
I mean, there's always gonna be one. There's always gonna be one person.
No, well, here's the thing, right? If this movie kills, right? Because I mean, things have not been going so well for the DCEU. Wonder Woman is probably their biggest champion at the moment. So if this film goes well, this Joker film, and it knocks everybody off their feet, do we live in a world where we get rid of Jared Leto?
Well, I mean, yeah, the Joker,
He said yeah.
the Joker, casting as a Joker is like one of the highest honors. It's like being casted as
Right.
Batman in a movie.
But we were always told that like Leto's Joker would return in the like Suicide Squad 2s or Gotham City Sirens of the world to play alongside Margot Robbie. But I would argue if Joaquin kills it, I mean maybe we need to rethink this whole thing. Maybe
No,
he
no.
is.
Listen, if Joaquin does a lot, because everybody always tries to defend Jared Leto's Joker, saying, "Oh, he needed more screen time," or "Oh, I like this interpretation." Me, straight up, I did not like it at all. I don't like the fact that he has damage tattooed on his forehead. I didn't like the fact that he had grills because
Yeah.
Batman knocked out his teeth, so he got grills. I didn't like that he was walking around shirtless and barefoot with a purple trench coat.
And with the way this looks, Joaquin looks a lot older, like he's playing a lot older version of the Joker, a lot more mature, which probably means he's a lot more troubled because he's been through a lot more.
Well, and I like the makeup because same with Jack Nicholson's. Jack Nicholson's makeup was different each time with the Joker. Like he'll have a different outfit, he'll have a different makeup, and I like that. Heath Ledger's Joker there was some points where you could see the little red circles at the end of the smile.
Right.
So I kind of dig the whole like Pagliacci
Oh,
type
yeah.
1920s clown makeup style.
Right. No, I dig it.
It's just it's the same thing I told my friends. I just want to hear his laugh first and foremost. I
Yeah.
want to hear his laugh.
It also seems, like I said, but when you look into these guys, like maybe side by side, it would seem as if Joaquin would be like the Joker, and then Leto would be like a pretender or a fan or even a henchman.
Yeah,
at
what was that?
point.
What was that Joker? Remember in the old Batman animated series that there was a guy that was acting like the Joker, and I think his name was like the Trickster or something. Not the
Well,
Trickster.
they do have a trickster in DC, but yeah, there's always there was a point at one time where the Joker was thought to be dead, and a bunch of people dressed up like clowns to kind of like he had like a weird sick fan club.
Yeah,
that was
isn't
all,
it like Batman Beyond? There's like a whole Joker gang.
You also have that as well in Batman Beyond. So the character does inspire. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, inspire a lot of people. And there's also that weird sort of like urban legend mystery of the character of like, what does it take to play the Joker, and what does it do to the human psyche, and all this other kind of stuff.
Well, Jack Nicholson didn't go crazy.
That's what I say.
Jack Nicholson
And
got
Mark
the role of
Hamill's
Joker
fine.
because he went crazy for Shining and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
So I mean, maybe it's arguable that he's already
and look
crazy.
at Jared and Jared Leto wasn't being. The thing about Jared Leto is he wasn't going crazy in the sense that Heath Ledger went crazy. He just thought, okay, this is what it takes to be crazy. Let me just email dead rats to my
condoms
coworker.
and stuff. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no,
I don't know. There's a lot going on.
That whole interpretation of the Joker is somebody that thought they understood the Joker, but really just watched a couple of episodes of the Batman animated series and said, I can make someone who's insane and dresses like that.
I can see that.
And that's why that scene where he puts his hand over his mouth and there's a tattoo of a mouth on his hand and he's laughing. That stuff is just it's weird.
Because DC introduced the idea of the multiverse so early into its inception itself. I have room for these other interpretations of these characters.
Oh, of course,
but it's hard for me to champion them.
You
it's
gotta
like
keep
me
it
watching.
going.
It's like I was just having this conversation, right? So, in talking about the Spider-Man the animated series, it turns out that a lot of the cast members were able to get together to kind of celebrate the success that it had in the 90s. They got together recently, and the rumor is that they're working on a new project. So I was asked if I wanted the Spider-Man the animated series to come back, and my first answer was no, because
that would be my first answer too.
My answer was I had that series when I was a kid, and I dug it. And I'm pretty sure there's a series going on right now that that kids today dig, and they should have their
that
version
Ultimate
too.
Spider-Man series with
Yeah.
Drake Bell.
So, like, they should be able to have their own thing, just like I was able to have my own thing. And none of them are going to be perfect. They're all going to be, kind of handicapped by either ratings or network or any of that kind
You
of
ask
stuff.
anybody that's older than us by at least a good 10 years, they probably wouldn't like the Teen Titans TV show we grew up with.
Right, and a lot of people would say that Spectacular Spider-Man is their television.
Like me personally, I don't like the He-Mans and Masters of the Universe show. What's the other one? Thundercats and Transformers from the 80s. I'm not really a fan of those shows.
Okay.
It doesn't catch me.
I can see that.
So Spider-Man the animated series and X-Men would be my Teen Titans go. You
Yeah.
know, like you look at like baby boomer adults that grew up with those cartoons. They would hate our cartoons.
Right.
We hate these little kid cartoons, and it's gonna keep going and
Right.
going.
Right.
The cycle's gonna repeat that. Oh, this isn't my insert name of character here, but that's the point. Is it is yours? It's theirs too. It's all of ours.
Which is the thing with this Joker. Like right now, we'll be getting
Well,
our
that's
I
right.
want to
Anybody
say
that likes Jared
fifth.
Leto's Joker, I'm not gonna sit here and judge it and mock you. You know, like who you want to like. It is art. It's subjective. It didn't attract me, but if it attracted you, then the filmmakers did something right. At least if it attracts one person, the filmmakers did something right.
They really did a good job kind of making Leto threatening, which I've always want my Joker to be. I always want him to feel like at any point he could just flip
No,
out
he
and do
did.
something crazy.
He was pretty threatening.
And Joaquin Phoenix just looked like a threatening man. He just looks like a crazy
Yeah.
man on the edge of sanity. So I really am interested in seeing what direction that they go with him. Comic Con's coming up. We got Comic Con on the brink.
Comic Con.
Who knows what they're going to drop as far as trailers and news are concerned? But I am.
Yeah, I'm still
keeping
trying
my
to.
eyes
I'm still
open.
like staying away from trailers fully now. Like
Yeah,
I'm
you
just.
didn't
I'm
even
just.
get to see the Captain Marvel trailer. Right?
I just don't want to. Like I've had full opportunities. It's just, I think I'm just gonna try and stay away from trailers and just watch movies when they like come. And that's just not with comic book movies. That's with all trailers. Like I'm just staying away from trailers in general because I've noticed even non-comic property trailers give either too much away or do this thing where they have like little 5-second teasers before the trailer even starts.
Yeah, that's
So
garbage.
so it's like a lot of trailers aren't the way they used to be anymore. So I'm just like, you know what? I just want to be excited for the movie. Just tell me who the director is, who the writer is. Give me the actors and actresses, and I'll put the pieces in together by thinking of their old projects they did.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because if I could trust the director from his last 3 movies, then I can definitely will go watch him do this new project. You know.
I also get the same time. At the same time, I get this idea that I want these studios to have more confidence. I wish that their trailers could be a little bit more of a puzzle box. But in the same sense, when you start doing things like that, some people would say like, "Oh, I saw this trailer and I obviously thought it was about this. I got the message that it was this or that." And then if you do things like just show things that fans would recognize, you lose a section of the audience.
And they're
So I
usually
get
like
that
4 or
too.
5 minute trailers. A trailer should not be
I agree.
A trailer shouldn't be more than 2 minutes.
You get the first trailer is usually about 2 minutes to 2:30, and then it gets to about the 3.5, 4, and then it's yeah.
Like, I remember it started getting excessive around like 2008 when you go to IMDb to look up these trailers because IMDb has everything, and you have 2 teaser trailers that are 30 seconds. Then you have a trailer 1, a trailer 2, a final trailer, and then like 3 TV spots that are different clips of the movie on its own. It's like you could watch all 6 of these little trailers and piece together your own movie. So it's like, that's why I don't need trailers no more. Oh, I'm looking over at your laptop. That makeup does look pretty damn
It
menacing.
does look pretty good.
That makeup, you guys got it. I know you guys have definitely seen it, but the makeup from far away, he does look pretty good. It's like a 1920s
I
clown.
remember first feeling of that problem with trailers with BVS. I remember it got
That was exactly when I first felt it. When they showed Doomsday,
and Wonder Woman
before the trailer even started, you just see Doomsday jump out that
slide on the thing.
yeah, and then it goes into showing the logos. I was like, nope. Even if you decide, okay, you know, let's show Doomsday in the trailer. You know, you should have waited for the movie. But even if you're gonna show Doomsday in the trailer, why are you gonna show it now? Because you just ruined the element of surprise.
Exactly.
I could have been. Imagine seeing Spider-Man grab Captain America's shield, and then you see the logo, Marvel logo, and then the jump into the Civil War trailer.
Yeah, it's kind of
It would have
it's
totally
a lack of confidence. It's trying to get people to go in when there was a lot of people already ready to go. You know, and they would have
No,
said
people should just trust the director, trust the writer, trust the actors and actors. But I ask too much from people.
I guess we all do in a kind of way with these mediums lasting as long as they do. Characters like Superman and Batman being 80 years old at this point. When something doesn't work with the property, you have to turn and look and say there has to be someone to blame because everywhere else these things have worked in books, movies, cartoons. But all of a sudden, when you try to make a movie, it falls apart. None of that makes sense to me. But with Comic-Con, coming up that same week of Comic-Con, the same week of New York Comic-Con, right here in the Big Apple, the Empire State, that same weekend, Venom drops. And that is the movie that is going to... This is the movie that's going to change a lot because this is Sony's first gamble in this Sony universe of Marvel
I
characters.
think everything Sony does is a gamble at this point.
It is, but this in particularly because rumor has it there's no Spider-Man in this, so this would be a Spider-Man story without Spider-Man in it, about a villain. I think this might be the first time a villain has been the protagonist
In a Marvel movie specifically?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely in a Marvel movie. I don't know about there was inklings before the purchase that Fox was thinking of doing a Doom
would Suicide
movie
Squad still count as like a first comic book movie that's solo
on
villains?
Yeah,
Because it's followed specifically people that you know as villains. They were all in jail before they got.
yeah.
But you know,
that.
you see, but
I give you that. I give you that. Even though I don't like thinking.
but
of
as
that
far
movie.
yeah, I know, I know it's.
I don't like thinking of that movie, but I get it. No, you're right.
Hell, I'll even go so far as to say that Avengers: Infinity War was a
Thanos-
solo.
the
That's
Thanos'
that is
movie?
a Thanos movie. That
Thanos-
really is Thanos'
Avengers,
movie.
Thanos Rising.
Yeah, the rise of Thanos.
That's it. I like it. Are you excited for the Venom movie?
I'm excited to see what they're gonna do. The accent from Tom Hardy takes me out of it a lot, but I can put the accent aside after a while. Like
Yeah.
I'm really just more interested in to see how Venom works as a solo story.
Is there anything that could make or break this film for you? Whether it just be the ways to depict characters and stuff like that, or is there anything that in movies in general is make or break for you?
Well, I know nothing about anything that's in Venom's arc besides Venom himself, Eddie Brock, or Flash Thompson. I know nothing about their side characters, nothing about their love interests, their
Gotcha.
friends. So everything in that movie is going to be a surprise to me. I'm not going to go in there with like a comic book hardcore head in mind.
Yeah.
The only thing that would really break the film for me is if they do have a Spider-Man cameo, it not be Tom Holland. Like if it's anybody else.
Imagine. And we have a new Spider-Man.
What would make the film for me is if the Spider-Man cameo is Andrew Garfield. That would be amazing.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be amazing to me.
Literally amazing.
If I hear like Andrew Garfield's voice, like hey Tarface or something like that, I will go crazy. I'll mark out.
Yeah.
I'll probably say this is the greatest comic book movie ever, just because they made it. They brought back Garfield. I love Garfield.
I think, I write my own headcanon with some of these things, and I already see a scene of like, Eddie Brock with the suit on, looking at a news report where Spider-Man's able to save somebody, and they're like, Spider-Man, that guy's truly a hero. And then Venom does like one of those hero, and then the white spider populates on his chest or whatever. It's a kind of they're gonna try to do some kind of shortcut because he has no spider on his chest, which makes sense because he hasn't met Spider-Man
From any of the
yet.
close-ups, they have no.
No, it's like this weird.
It's just all black.
It's like there's white. There's like these traces of white. It almost looks like electricity or veins or something like that. So he's not completely black. He's definitely gotten some sort of detail and design.
No, because I could have sworn I saw like symbiote like veins around like his shoulders.
It's a white aesthetic. See that there?
I'll push the screen
So
down a
it's
little bit.
sort of like a white veiny.
Oh, that looks
You understand what I'm saying?
like that's pretty cool, but weird. But it's
Yeah.
cool, but it's weird.
Yeah, we definitely don't have the spider.
I just like that the mask comes through the face,
Yes.
and I like how they do it better than Sam Raimi's. Because Raimi's, it looked like the symbiote was crawling around. This one, you just see like it fully closing like a mouth.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I am going to be covering on the next episode of 8 Major Issues if we get a chance. I'm currently reading the Lethal Protector arc for Venom, which is his first hero arc. And
That was the one. That's the one where he has like the design. I think it was. I'm trying to remember how it looked. He's like perched, right? Like.
I think so, yeah. And so that thing there is about him basically coming to a mutual agreement with Spider-Man, like, I won't mess with you if you don't mess with me. And he goes back to California, and then a sequence of things happen with the Life Foundation, which is supposedly in the Venom movie. So I'm just trying to get a little bit
is
of
this going to be
background. Adaptation?
yeah, it's going to be like a not rip off, inspired by the Lethal Protector angle?
Yes, that's one arc, and there was another one that I'm drawing a blank to right now, but I'm hoping to cover as well. And not to change my enjoyment of the film at all, but because, honestly, I always thought Venom was kind of a cool character, and I never really took the time to find out what he was about or what was going on.
No, I always thought, like, from his surface, Venom was always my favorite anti-hero. I never considered Venom a bad guy, even though I know growing up, He was a bad. I just could not, from what I read, because I read a little bit of Lethal Protector growing up, not enough that I remember, but from everything that I just remembered from Venom growing up, he was never a bad guy to me. He was always like misunderstood.
Right.
You know, he was a bully. He was mean as Eddie Brock. You know, he tricked and lied his way to the top. But who hasn't in this world?
Yeah, you ain't lying.
You know, so he ain't nobody different than the common Wall Street folk.
Right. And even more sympathetic because he was like a ham and egger. Like he was somebody. He was a freelance photographer.
Yeah, that's even worse. You're a freelance photographer trying to lie and sneak your way to the top. That's what you're supposed to do.
The design for the character is amazing. You know, it's changed over the years as it's taken on different hosts, but it's always, you know, this big hulking monstrous beast with this crazy tongue and sharp teeth. There's some parts in Lethal Protector where he is like wall crawling upside down and legitimately covered by his own slobber because the tongue is just excreting that weird.
Was the saliva green?
Yeah.
I love that
all
green
over his
saliva.
face. And he was just like all over his face because he's upside down and stuff like that. So really sick aesthetics when it comes to that character. What's your background on this character? Of Venom.
Venom. Okay, well, it started from the Spider-Man animated series,
Okay.
and then it jumped into the Spider-Man video games for the original PlayStation.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that I did get my hands on a Lethal Protector, and I have to look up the cover to see what it was. But from what I remember, it was him perched on like webbing, like the Todd McFarlane one that I gave you.
It
It was like that, but it was the background was like all green, not green. Sorry, background was like all red, like that dark red.
Yeah.
And from there, it was just, I want toys. I want everything I can of Venom. The Spectacular Spider-Man came out. I love that interpretation of Venom.
But that one was huge, right? That Venom.
That was a
really,
huge Venom. Like,
right.
like his stomach and legs looked small, but like basically torso up, he was like a Mack truck.
Yeah.
And he looked tall. Like the Venom in this animated series from the 90s, he was big, but he still didn't look. He only looked like about like maybe 3-4 inches taller than Spider-Man.
Well, that's because Spider-Man in the animated series is like 6'3".
Yeah, he was tall himself, but this one he looked like a shadow just casting over him.
Yeah, and I think that's there's a point in that, right? Like Peter Parker, for the most part, even regardless of like how much he might be down on his luck or outnumbered, he has basically defeated everyone. Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Shocker, Rhino, Sinister Six, all that kind of stuff. Venom literally is that thing that puts him in the shadow. Like it really is that big hulking threat.
Well, that's what happens when your bad guy is somebody that literally knows your mind.
Yeah. And yeah.
That's why to me, I always considered Venom Spider-Man's arch enemy. His Joker, his Red Skull.
Yeah.
Even though I was always told by even diehard comic book fans that no more than me, no, Green Goblin is Spider-Man's arch enemy. That's like his number one back. To me, I always said it was Venom.
Yeah. I think Venom, it works kind of funny because I think most heroes have this where they have their arch rival or arch nemesis, their big bad, you know, and then they have somebody that's almost their polar opposite. Is
that's what I always considered your arch nemesis, your number one bad guy was your polar opposite.
Yeah.
Xavier and Magneto work perfect because they're literally two sides to the same coin.
Right.
You know, Joker and Batman were two sides to the same coin. Same for Captain America and Red Skull. You know, the only thing that really made Green Goblin Spider-Man's greatest enemy was the fact that he killed Gwen Stacy.
Well, I guess you could also argue about like the duality of the character, right? Spider-Man was Peter Parker trapped, or Spider-Man was trapped in Peter Parker, and you know, only through hiding your secret identity and wearing this suit can he be that. And Norman Osborn basically felt like he always was the Green Goblin. You know, like because of his insanity, he lived life as a Green Goblin and had to pretend to be Norman when he wasn't out killing people or throwing pumpkin bombs and stuff. So I think it's a little bit of that in science and all that kind of stuff. But you're right.
I would have to actually like read more on their relationship than more watching it because. Yeah, when I see interpretations of these Spider-Man stories in the cartoons or in the movies, it always seems like Venom is his polar. It is his polar opposite to me. And if it's not his polar opposite, the fact that he can't use his spider sense around him, The fact that his symbiote is webbings created from what he remembers from Spider-Man's powers. The fact that his powers are Spider-Man's powers.
I guess what ties Venom so closely to Spider-Man is the origin in general. Is the idea that
It's like it came from. They consider him
right.
like a dad.
Without Spider-Man, you can probably jump to the conclusion that Green Goblin would have became Green Goblin regardless. Or guys like Shocker or Rhino or whatever would have been those people regardless. But without Spider-Man finding that alien suit during Secret Wars in the comics and bringing it back to Earth, you don't get Eddie Brock being exposed.
Green
to the
Goblin
symbiote
wasn't
suit.
created by Spider-Man.
No.
But Venom was created by Spider-Man.
Which ties them a little bit closer together, like you were saying, in the whole Nemesis and hero kind of deal. I did like that he was in Marvel vs. Capcom. That was great. I like picking Venom.
Well, he was. I think he was always in the Marvel fighting games, right?
Yeah, that was
the
was
Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Street Fighter.
Yeah,
he was always one guy because I remember specifically always playing him.
Yeah, and you can like shoot out a little bit of the symbiote and stuff like that.
And he always had the same fighting position as Spider-Man, where they were like on like their knees crouched down with their hand above high.
Yeah,
they always had that same fighting stance,
right? Which plays again to the mirroring aspect of the character. And so with all that excitement that we had towards the literally growing up with this character, hero, villain, whatever you want to call him, we were then blessed with the first ever on-screen interpretation of Venom, played by Topher Grace in the role of Eddie Brock.
He says blessed loosely.
In your favorite film of all time, Spider-Man 3. as discussed on the Witch's Worst episode, Spider-Man 3 or Amazing Spider-Man 2, which you can find wherever podcasts are found as part of the Major Issues podcast. How did you feel, now that the war is over, how did you feel about the Topher Grace interpretation of
Oh
Eddie
my
Brock
God, man. Oh, I knew that movie was going to be a fail the second I read the IMDb casting. I will never forget sitting in my living room, excited as hell, to watch the trailer because I just heard that it was going to drop. This is when AOL was huge back in the day where you get all your news from AOL mail and all that. So I remember going straight to IMDb.
You might as well be talking about 1-800-COLLECT, though. Some people are like, what? They're like, what? AOL,
CLLATT.
Yeah, you remember that? Mr. T was on those commercials.
Carrot Top was on those commercials called CLLATT.
Maybe Topher Grace should have been on some of those commercials. After
Probably. I remember reading it, and I said, Topher Grace? Eric Foreman? You casted Eric Foreman to play one of the biggest villains, not big metaphorically, I mean big figuratively.
Right. I was a big wrestling fan at the time. I am still now, but I was really getting into it around that time. And I remember thinking, you could literally just hire Brock Lesnar and airbrush him, and you wouldn't have to worry about it.
I always wanted them to hire Triple H to play Thor.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you get Eddie Brock, you just get Brock Lesnar, you got the flat top and all that stuff from the animated series.
Oh my God, you do have the flat top in the animated series.
And you kind of got that, kind of not all there, you know? He kind of got a bag of rocks up there.
You're going to see Paul Heyman on set every time. Get my client his lemonade.
And that's it. So you would have had a bigger hulking, and then if you would have had somebody like Brock Lesnar trying to tear into somebody like Tobey Maguire, you would have felt sympathy for him.
I don't understand why you have Lou Ferrigno on your contract with Marvel. Why don't you just get CGI and mocap to be done by Lou Ferrigno?
Yeah.
You always cast a Bruce Banner, but you still use Lou Ferrigno for the CGI.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
And you've seen what I said about, I didn't dig really the alien screeching that it was doing. Probably because I have my ties to Venom are so much in the Spider-Man the Animated Series.
Yeah, where he snarls every dialogue.
Where he's just drooling and constantly just snarling.
Venom.
And constantly growling, which is what I figure a big hulking monster that just wants more would sound like. But
I would imagine that someone skinny and scrawny and a whiny brat like Topher Grace's interpretation of Venom would be screeching and yelling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So it kind of plays out yes, if he's big and menacing, he's going to be snarling and drooling. If he's whiny and small, he's definitely going to be all yelly.
I don't know. There was a very compelling scene that we were talking about off air, the actual birth of Venom from that film.
Yeah, I would say I do like the birth of Venom in in Spider-Man 3 more than the Spider-Man animated series. Because I felt I guess they had so many subplots being thrown into one 3-part episode that they just had to get things out of the way really quick. So they didn't have time to stew on the actual birth of Venom. I like Topher Grace, like, taking off his sweater and then it's still coming on to him and him screaming and getting scared and it going into his mouth.
He also goes to pray to God to kill Peter Parker, which is that's a lot going on. He's like, God,
Yeah,
can you
I don't think
please-
that's how God works.
God, can you please kill Peter Parker?
So, yes, please, God, please kill the man that stopped me from lying, that caught me in my lie.
Yeah,
So that's
I did-
two commandments.
I did like watching that drop on him and that transformation, but then everything else after that was just done so poorly. That whole him
Running
popping
into
out.
Sandman in the how do you run into Sandman in the streets in New York? Do you know how big New York is?
I think he might have been doing the pro though. He might have been doing the whole we stuff. I'm not 100% sure.
He was saying you want to kill the spider, we want to kill the spider. So yeah, he was
Okay.
saying he was using we.
The plural, the idea that the symbiote and him are bonded. I don't think has he ever named Venom in that film?
No.
Who would call him Venom?
No one called him Venom at all in the movie.
No,
he was
just-
just Eddie.
You're the guy wearing the suit that I threw out.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Because I think in the comics, it's one of those things where it's like, I used to spew venom as part of the.
Well, that's what I
Daily
liked about
Bugle.
a man in the animated series. He named himself Venom because that's what he was to Peter Parker.
Right.
He said, "You didn't want to accept us when we were on you. Well, now we'll be your Venom."
Right.
you
And I
know?
think in the comics, it was the idea like, I work for the Daily Bugle, so sometimes I spew venom, and that's what I will be.
I think I
or
remember
something like
reading that
So,
or hearing that in Watch Mojo.
so none of that in Spider-Man 3, and then seemingly the character is killed. They do play up the idea that sound waves affect it. This is something that's been in all the comics.
Yeah, so
and,
they did keep to the church scene. They did keep to the church bell.
yeah, and then the sound
So-
waves when he was putting the metal poles into the ground and he hits them all.
Yeah,
And
that
they
was
create
that was
some
a pretty
kind of-
cool scene. I liked how it looked outside of not being on a body
Yeah,
when it was just the symbiote on its own. How big it was, because that did kind of look like the animated series.
yeah.
So I did like a lot of the.
When it was kind of over.
It was like they had the potential to do a good Venom story. It's just they casted the wrong person. That's really what it was.
Yeah.
I would have accepted everything that they threw at me if they would have just casted somebody different.
I would also say that Venom is kind of one of those people that deserves their own film. And he's getting it now.
he deserves
so-
his own film more than the Joker because there is so many different story arcs you can throw with Venom. Like, Venom was a good guy. Joker's never been a good guy.
Right.
I don't want to watch a movie where I'm seeing my main character kill everybody for the sake of fun and, audience banter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I remember being really, really turned off by that interpretation of Venom, and the idea of a Venom movie has kind of been floating around for a while.
Well, my favorite interpretation of Venom will always be Flash Thompson's.
Okay.
I love the Agent Venom. I love the fact that Mr. Fantastic gave him like a wristwatch that has the symbiote there, and it's like Nano and symbiote together.
Right.
So
Flash Thompson loses his legs as a war veteran,
Yeah.
and is able to use the symbiote to not only have legs, but to fight crime. He's
And his
actually
whole
an
outfit
anti-hero.
looked really dope. He had this nice like military utility belt.
He's kind of like a symbiote Punisher almost. a little
Yeah.
bit, So
Like, give the Punisher the symbiote, and I would watch a movie like that.
man. Well, Venom has exploded. You did the comics did a story arc called Spider-Verse where they pulled in Spider-Man from all over the universe, but they also did a comic book storyline called Venomverse where you got to see different Venomized characters from all over the multiverse come together to try to fight a common threat. So this Venom idea,
Would
this
there be
idea of
Carnage
Venom,
in that, or is
uh,
Carnage 2 on the?
No, Carnage is his
Carnage
own-
is 2 on
his
the
own-
extreme end
yeah.
of the spectrum.
Yeah, he's his own symbiote. And then Carnage is coming. I've seen Carnage. I've read Carnage versus Deadpool. Carnage is a big fan. I'm a humongous fan of Carnage, but what handcuffs Carnage is that Carnage is a serial killer, and unless you're fully able in your medium, whether it's cartoons or PG-13 movies, to express that, I don't think you get the full character.
Well, if they can do it with Joker, I think you can give us
Yeah,
a
they
Carnage
kinda-
movie.
They kind of did, and I would not be surprised. I think Carnage is the big ticket item in a Venom saga. I would not be surprised if he's either hinted at or just outright shown in the Venom film.
Well, Carnage always called Venom his father.
It is his father. He's the offspring of that symbiote. But the problem with the symbiotes is all the symbiotes' offspring are infinitely stronger. So if Carnage had a kid, it'd be stronger than Carnage, and Carnage is stronger than Venom.
Well, that's why. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
Venom and Peter in the show had
Work
to
together,
stick together to take down Cassidy because he was like, and I love Cletus Cassidy as Carnage.
Yeah.
I think he is fantastic. What he killed his own parents,
Yeah,
right?
he's insane. He has a body count a mile away, and then with the symbiote, they just seem to fit perfectly, and they are just merchants of death together. But yeah, a lot of that stuff that I got about Venom and I got about Carnage took place because of my out and out blind fandom of Spider-Man the animated series that took place on Fox Kids when I was 5 years old. This
4 kids.
yeah, this show debuts, and I fell in love. What is your history with the Spider-Man the animated series?
Man, I in love. I would wake up every Saturday morning, and if you got up early enough, like I did, you would catch Batman animated series, Spider-Man animated series, and X-Men animated series. You'd have to keep flipping channels, but you would catch them. So I always watched Spider-Man and X-Men. It was always a back-to-back on Fox, and I loved it. Flip the channels to channel 11, you go to WB 11, and you get your Batman. I loved it. Saturday morning cartoons. Kids today will never understand Saturday morning cartoons.
And this was in a time where you've had stuff before like the Iron Man cartoon, the Fantastic Four cartoon, and stuff like that. But between the X-Men, Spider-Man, and Batman cartoons,
Those were the for us 90s kids, not anybody born in the 80s. Us in the 90s, these were our cartoons. If you want to throw the Superman adventures or whatever in there.
Yeah, and Justice League, all those precursors. I think the first three though were X-Men, Batman, and Spider-Man, but
because it was Batman came out I think 91 and Spider-Man came out in 94, same time as X-Men.
Yeah, they weren't too far after the Burton
They were all right then and there, beginning of the 90s. You get kicked off with those three amazing cartoons.
And Spider-Man, that goes on for 5 seasons, which is pretty damn long when you consider.
And you want to know how long it was? It was that not every episode was a different story. Every episode was a continuation to a previous story that's being thrown.
Which is you can call or consider that comic book storytelling. The idea that when you turn the page, the last page says to be continued and makes you want to then pick up the next issue to find out the conclusion of that story. They did a lot of that in Spider-Man the Animated Series, especially in the episodes that we're going to tackle. It's a 3-part series in itself, but they were able to tackle things like Secret Wars, interdimensional stuff.
Yeah, I think like season 5 alone was only like 2 stories. I think it was Sins
they
of
do
Our
a lot
Fathers and the Wedding.
Yeah, they do a lot of that stuff. I think that's when you find out that Mary Jane is like a clone or something like that.
Yes. Oh, God. And she was like brought back from like Madam Web and all that. Damn, Madam Web. Always messing with my boy Peter in this show.
At one point, it actually ended up becoming the highest rated and most popular children's television show in America.
Beating G.I. Joe, Transformers, and He-Man?
You understand what I'm talking about?
What?
And then you got to a point, right, where this thing was syndicated worldwide, Spider-Man the Animated Series. So because it's syndicated worldwide and other countries have different takes on what can and cannot be shown on television, especially in animated shows or shows geared towards children, a lot of the violence that was on the original, that was like in the original comic and stuff like that, they had to tone down for the show just to make sure.
2 punches in this whole show.
The rules are supposedly like no fists to the face, no realistic guns, no fire, no crashing through glass, no children in peril, no mentions of the words death, die, or kill.
Wait, is that why every gun looks like a super soaker?
They all shoot lasers. Every single gun.
They either shoot lasers, fires, or blasts.
Yes. Barely fires because, again, they didn't want fires. So we've seen a lot of explosions in the episodes that we watched. No fire. Smoke and
that's right. It's usually just white smoke.
Smoke and debris. That's all you get. You get the concussion of the thing, but you don't see flames.
But you know, they still made their fight scenes interesting. They still kept it packed with action.
They did.
They kept it very funny.
I didn't know that how much the show adhered to these strict guidelines because I couldn't tell. As a kid, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything else.
And even when you go back as an adult, I went back recently, like 6 years ago, to rewatch this show when Netflix had all of our animated series from what we had growing up.
Yeah.
I went and I binged all of them because I didn't know how long they were going to be there. So I remember going back and still being entertained by this show. And the one thing that took away the most about the animated series of Spider-Man was the writing. Yeah. I loved all of Parker's quips.
Yeah.
His jokes, his references. Oh, now I know what a TV dinner feels like. You know, that's from Die Hard. Like, this stuff is funny.
Yeah, it was really good. And they, again, while entertaining us, they were educating us so much on what was the Marvel universe of characters with by introducing the X-Men, bringing them into the Spider-Man series. You have Captain America in there. There's Iron Man in there.
Oh yeah, I
Daredevil
wrote down
shows
like
up.
everybody. I think I wrote down almost
Ah,
everybody
you
they
got a
had in
list?
here.
Ah, let's hear it. I would love to hear what kind of great cameos showed up in Spider-Man the animated series because that's a lot of my first introductions to a lot of these characters.
They had the X-Men, which of the X-Men they had Jubilee, Beast, Rogue, Storm, Cyclops, and Wolverine. They had Fantastic Four. They had Black Cat, Blade, uh, what's his name? Punisher. As far as villains go, I remember they had Kingpin, the Sinister Six, which was Doctor Octopus. What was it? Mysterio, right? Was part of
Yeah,
it.
there's different Sinister Six, but like yeah,
But
Vulture,
basic Sinister Six,
Rhino,
they had
Scorpion.
yeah, they really like didn't shy away from showing that this was a Marvel property, and
And
they
how
had a lot of Marvel characters in here. Towards the end, you had him teaming up with the Fantastic Four to take down Doctor Doom with the help of Green Goblin in another world, and there was Hobgoblin was even in this. I didn't even know who Hobgoblin was growing up, to the point where I thought Hobgoblin was Harry.
yes,
I always thought Hobgoblin was Harry.
Harry
So when
Osborn.
Spider-Man 3 came out and I saw that James Franco was taking over the role and it said New Goblin, I was like, New Goblin? Why don't you just call him Hob? You could have just called him Hobgoblin. It would sound cool. Come to find out, Hobgoblin's not even related to Norman Osborn.
Yeah, no, he's some other guy completely.
But I think he was shown more in this show than the Green Goblin really was.
Yeah, well, the half of the creative team that put together this show was really, really invested in what marketing and merchandise that they can make. You know, Spider-Man is probably the most popular superhero as far as merchandise is concerned, and this is
he's the face of Marvel.
This is a study done. I think it goes Spider-Man, then Batman and Supes. So
They are that to me that would be it.
those three symbols.
It would be Spider-Man, then Batman, then Superman.
Yeah,
And
those
Spider-Man number one, because that's what you can market the easiest to kids.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you have a show where no one punches each other in the face. And I don't know how it would have felt then watching a bunch of like really aggressive Spider-Man stuff because again, that's what I grew up with. He never hit anybody. He'd throw people. In this,
He'd always use his webs.
Yeah, in this he throws a bunch of people. But yeah, again,
He's always picking up people and throwing them.
Again, I did not feel like I missed out anything on this. How do you feel about the voice cast, the voice actors in this?
I would say this, and here comes the pitchforks and evil riots. I say that this voice cast of Spider-Man is way more iconic than Kevin Conroy's.
Than Batman's voice acting?
I think this is probably the.
They both share Mark Hamill, because Mark Hamill plays the Hobgoblin.
Yes, that's right. Mark Hamill does play Hobgoblin.
So they both Batman and Spider-Man share that.
I mean, it's hard to compare the two.
Yeah.
They both are, in their own right, iconic and the best. If you're going to make a Mount Rushmore, those would be two comic book voice actors that I would throw up there.
Yeah.
But it's just, as far as Spider-Man's voice goes from the 90s,
Yeah.
that is the voice of Spider-Man. That's the voice everyone has in their head. If you grew up around that Spider-Man, that's the voice you have in your head when you read the comics.
They made it a point to make this Spider-Man a college, college
He
student.
seemed even more. He seemed like
older,
an adult. Yeah.
way older, way.
It was probably the
more,
Raimi treatment
traveled.
where like half the series he was like in college, and the other half he was more of an adult because he had his own apartment.
Yeah.
He was working for Connors.
He wasn't working. Wait, you're talking about it in the movies?
Well, I'm saying like this series has the Raimi treatment
gotcha,
where
yeah.
like the first half of the movie was like he's a college student. I know
Right.
he was a high school student, and then the rest of the
Graduating,
series he's
going
he's
to
this
college,
college,
right.
but he also holds down a job. Because he was very adult.
Yeah, and
I would
like
still say
said,
even his animation made him look like he was 32.
that's what I'm saying. The guy looks like he's 6'6" and 250 pounds of muscle.
And then I looked up the guy that played his voice, Christopher Daniel Barnes. Dude, he was a kid.
Isn't he from? I want to say he's from Brady Bunch.
I see a very Brady special, the Brady Bunch. Which one is that? That one's the
He played Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movie.
That was Greg Brady.
Yeah. Wow, check that out.
Oh God, that was the one with Gary Oldman playing.
Yeah, but he
Mr. Brady.
He was definitely Spider-Man, and then he returned to play Spider-Man Noir in the 2010 video game Spider-Man Shattered Dimension.
I think that's the only Spider-Man game that I haven't played up until this new one.
There is so many
I heard
Spider-Man games, which
cause,
makes sense because, well,
well, my favorite to me personally, as old as it is and a product of the time as it is, I love Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 1. That came out in like 2000, 2001, where Doc Ock and Carnage are working together and they release like this toxin that has like the whole ground like covered in smoke. So now you have to stick to the rooftops.
oh wow,
Mary Jane is being There's a scene. There's a fight scene, a whole sequence where Mary Jane is being kidnapped by Venom, and you have to like follow him on top of a train, and you have to fight like lizard people on top of the
right,
train.
yeah,
And the whole time you're just hearing the non-playable character talk. Oh, you have to get your little lady. The
right.
switch, idiot! Turn on the switch. And you have Mary Jane being
repeatedly saying it because you don't know what's going on. You're just doing the same.
and you're literally just and that's what I
machinations over
hated
and
as
over
video games growing up. Okay, even as a kid, I'm like, okay, I understand. I'm moving as fast as I can right now. Like you're gonna keep replaying the same three dialogues over and over. That I used to be able to. I used to have to turn the TV on mute. Sometimes then I figured out in the settings you could turn off audio and just keep music.
Yeah.
So I would keep my background music and turn off all the audio because like I don't need to hear the same three dialogue.
I also may be wrong, but I feel like there was a Spider-Man game where you could have the Venom suit and choose whether or not you want to be good or bad, and then depending on what you did, it would change the course of the video game. So if any of the listeners out there know what the heck I'm talking about,
that's probably
let me know because
a newer one from like 2010s and stuff because they really had those change of heart type character, duality character games came out around that time, like 2011, 12, Infamous and all that, Watch Dogs.
Yeah, no, you're right. But we are way, way past. We got to go all the way back to the 90s because when I think of the Spider-Man the animated series, I think of the Kingpin.
The best interpretation of the Kingpin.
I don't know what accent the guy was doing. It was definitely something exotic. This guy, the Kingpin.
Maybe he was from Latveria.
He might have been from Latveria.
Or Sokovia.
There's nothing not saying that he's from Latveria. But Kingpin was played by Roscoe Lee Brown, an African-American voice actor who I thought killed it. I also think he might have played Mordo on the show as well because he also had that weird exotic voice. But Kingpin was structured as the main antagonist throughout the show. All machinations of evil doings came from Kingpin, and his top secret, could never ever find it lair inside the Chrysler Building, which is one of the most iconic parts of the New York skyline, and literally parts of the Chrysler Building would open up to reveal his evil plans and machines and spider slayers and all kinds of things. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I always liked Kingpin's involvement in this.
It kind of reminds me of not that kind of reminds me. The Netflix Marvel series reminds me of the Spider-Man animated series, being that Kingpin does seem like the overall main antagonist of.
Because of my love for this series, my dream is that the Netflix Marvel series will allow Kingpin to be the antagonist for all shows.
I think he should. Because he always acted like a force to not be reckoned with. Like, I don't care about no hand. I don't care about no ancient mysteries. Yeah. I want power.
Right. And he's the only character that I can think of that just is so tied up with all the heroes in Marvel from one way or another for various reasons that I think he would kill. He would literally kill as a solo villain here. And for 5 seasons, again, he was the biggest thorn in Spider-Man's side.
Him and Luke Cage would be great.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and it can get kind of dicey there, but I really
I liked him. I liked Alistair Smythe in this show too. I liked the Spider Slayer
in his super cool wheelchair.
Because as a kid, I never took him seriously. Not that I don't take people in wheelchairs seriously. You
yeah,
know,
where are we going with
it's
this?
just I didn't know who he was. With no comic knowledge, just being a kid watching a cartoon, I always found him as like, the feeble sidekick. Like he was just nobody. Then I come to find out, no, this man has like wings coming out of his back with like these spikes. Like his animation in this TV show was great. Like his palette was gray. He had like this gray, dirty like skin tone.
Right. Oh, no, because he ended up doing some kind of experimentation on himself, and then he grew those weird like wing things that was.
Yeah, it was like a wing, and it's like sticking out like spikes.
Yeah, it gets crazy. But now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this podcast. Let's talk about the 3-episode arc called the Venom Saga, aka the Alien Costume. The Alien Costumes, Part 1, 2, and 3. I guess a brief overview. Well, how do you feel about these 3 episodes? I mean, it's been a while since I watched an entire arc of this show, like quite some time. And although I peeked in from time to time just out of nostalgia reasons, they get through a lot on this show.
Yeah, I was just about to say, they do a good job having a lot of subplots crammed into 18-minute episodes. Because if you don't count commercials, these are like 18-minute episodes.
Right.
So everything is moving really quick. Like every scene is like when it gets to the third part of the chapter, all these scenes are closing out quick. Like, okay, now he's with Mary Jane. Now he's saying goodbye to Jane and Jonah Jameson.
Right.
Now he's doing this. Now he's doing that. Or like in the part 2, he has to jump from fighting Shocker to rescuing this person to doing that. Like the way they pace it is really well.
They definitely juggle a lot, but what's interesting is that I think it's all A plot because there is no like now let's go see the mini story of Aunt May trying to sell a toaster.
Everything is A plot.
It's all A plot, but they're constantly jumping around between we'll deal with Spider-Man the A plot, and then we'll walk to the villain with the A plot, and then we'll go back to Peter with the A plot, and then the villain again, then Spider-Man. We got to see basically the cartoon debut of Rhino.
Yes.
In this.
No, he was in the '60s Spider-Man.
What I mean on this show, because when he first pops up, they're like, this guy's like, who the heck is this? Alexei
Savage
Savage of my movie fame, Amazing Spider-Man 2, the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time.
Wow.
I don't like
total
that laugh,
slap in the face.
I feel like that laugh just
slap in the face to
that laugh told me everything I need to know. But the episode starts off with John Jonah Jameson, fabled son of legacy reporter J. Jonah Jameson.
The guy no one cared about in the second Spider-Man movie?
Right, the guy who had the putts that did the upside down kiss on the couch. What are you doing, guy? What are you doing?
Wow, I'm back in the moon.
What? Oh. That. Oh. Anyway. So John Jonah Jameson is he was on the moon, or I believe he was on the moon, and he finds what they call Prometheum X, which they seem to think is going to be some sort of power source. It's a space rock that was quote unquote bleeding, some black fluid. They bring the space rock, put it in some kind of jar, and just fly the ship back to New York. And we're told that this ship is going to make the first ever landing in JFK Airport.
On a commercial airport.
A space shuttle. It's just going to... I always thought they had to dock.
I didn't even know you can release spacecrafts in New York alone.
That's what I'm saying.
Land them here?
It's not a situation of just landing like the wheels hit, right? Aren't you supposed to dock?
Yeah, you have to dock it.
Yeah, but screw it. In the Spider-Man universe, we're just gonna fly this space shuttle onto the tarmac of JFK. But the symbiote gets out. This black evil gets out, gets all over the pilot and his co-pilot, because there seems to be only 2 people on this excursion, and causes them to crash their space shuttle onto the George Washington Bridge. Kingpin finds out that Prometheus X, whatever, is on this shuttle, and so he makes a special call to the Rhino to go get it picked up. It was cool seeing the Rhino.
It was. I liked the Rhino growing up in this show.
I still think the eyes on the side of his head are a little silly, but he's a Rhino. He's a man beast or something like that.
It's a man dressed as a rhino, so
with
it's gonna be silly.
Yeah, he still has his toes out. It's what are you doing? What are we doing?
It's got little animation butt cracks drawn.
Yeah, what's going on here? There was a lot of animated butts in this 3-part episode. They were very careful to work on the human anatomy, but. Rhino shows up, and he seems to be a force of nature. He's ripping shuttle doors off its hinges. He's stealing Prometheus X. He's knocking Spider-Man for a loop, and he's able to escape. We also get a look at Eddie Brock, who is able to snap some pictures of Spider-Man escaping from the space shuttle. Space shuttle falls off the George Washington Bridge.
Which I like how he loses his job with the Daily Bugle in this one.
Right.
Where he was just lying about the pictures he took. It's not like he's using Photoshop pictures of...
Right.
Of newspaper covers that you could literally go back and find.
Right. The idea is that Eddie Brock knows that J. Jonah Jameson has an axe to grind with Spider-Man. So if he can find it, and if he can produce evidence that Spider-Man is the person who stole the Prometheus X elements, the one thing everybody cares about that maybe they can finally label Spider-Man as a menace once and for all. When he brings these photos to Jameson is ecstatic. He's like, we got him. We got this spider creep. And he puts out somebody puts out a $1 million.
No, it was him.
It was him,
Yeah,
right?
it was. He was the one that went on a press conference. He's like, I'll offer $1 million to whoever brings me Spider-Man. Like, okay, buddy.
That's a lot of money, bro.
Like, I want to see your bank account first. Let me see your payrolls.
That's a lot of money, bro. But I guess this was gonna stop us from using fossil fuels or something, right? Like this is what the Prometheus.
Yeah, well, no. They said they had a energy life of like 3 days.
Half-life, yeah.
It had a radioactive half-life of like 3 days.
Yeah, but at the time they thought it could be the next source of renewable energy or something like that. And the fact that quote unquote Spider-Man stole it, or everyone seems to believe he stole it, even though the Rhino is the one who has it in custody and is bringing it to the Kingpin, caused everyone to think that Spider-Man is a criminal and that with $1 million, hey, screw it, they will capture him. This is the same. If you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. But that New York turned quite quickly when $1 million was set on the table.
No, they ratted him out real quick. Yo, Spider-Man's under the fire hydrant.
He's over there. Hey. He comes in here every day for a 5 o'clock coffee. You can stand right here at 4:59. You'll catch him. They were ready to snitch on my boy Peter Parker. So Peter Parker decides that, well, I guess I got to lay low for a little while, which means putting down the red and blue suit, and I'll just go back to being regular old poor-ass Peter Parker. They always make a note to say that this guy is broke, and he's broke at all times, Peter Parker.
Yeah, for real. Like, just because he doesn't have the suit on, all of a sudden he's back to being broke.
Yep.
As if the suit generates some sort of income.
Now we're struggling. Yeah, come on. You can get paid to do that. I don't know if you know Marvel, but there are heroes for hire, so work on that. So, so he goes to sleep, and in probably one of the most iconic scenes in the animated series history, we see the Venom symbiote, the alien symbiote, crawl out of the hamper that he places suit in, and basically crawl towards him.
Thank God it wasn't Venom Vision.
Yeah, right. Oh, I forgot we had symbiote vision in Spider-Man
Venom
3.
Vision.
With
that little whimsical.
This is how this sees. This is how this sees. I guess it was like a horror film kind of deal.
Sam Raimi. He does do good horror. Drag Me to Hell. Evil Dead.
Oh, you don't gotta tell me those Spider-Man films were horror movies. Those Spider-Man films were horror movies, and they never got the monster in the end, Mary Jane. That's funny. I don't know how that ends up working. But you have the symbiote crawl on top of him while he's sleeping, and he has like this elaborate existential dream.
Yeah, it's like dualities, personalities facing off.
What do you think about that scene? That scene's so iconic that they placed it in the opener.
Yeah, I like it because you see like the suit try to grab him, but then the symbiote just pulls him out and just eats him. And then when it swallows him, he wakes up upside down, like in the Raimi one, staring at himself in the mirror, wondering how he got there, questioning the suit, and then goes on his little joyride.
Yeah.
So I liked all that. But the design of this suit was so amazing. I will forever, I don't know, it's so simple, but I will forever love the patch on his wrist. Those little white boxes on his wrist will just forever be simple.
Well, you know what's funny, though? And I agree with you. I think that the suit is beautiful because of its simplicity.
Like, it's just a black suit with a white spider. You don't need nothing else. And the way he was just questioning it. Like, I like the inner monologue from the third Spider-Man. The way he's like, the suit, where'd it come from? This feels weird. And then he does all these, like, flips and jumps. I like that. But I like the way Parker was questioning everything about the suit while he was on a joyride of it. Where he's like, these webs, like, it's so far. Like, I've never shot them this far. Like, I've never I was going to overjump this building. I've never jumped that high. Like,
yeah.
Even his powers themselves are being enhanced, not just the suit is enhanced.
Well, it's good that you pointed that out because one of the things that makes this show so authentic, especially to the comics, is the constant monologuing. Unlike Batman the Animated Series, when Batman wasn't talking out loud, he barely spoke. He did not go, well, I think that, it might be the Joker.
Yeah, so you didn't get a chance to see what he was thinking. You just knew he was the smartest man in the room.
Meanwhile, everything that is on Peter Parker's mind, we hear. If he's like, I think it's 15 minutes past 3, and I'm kind of hungry. Maybe I go by that. He literally says he puts all his emotions.
It's like, oh man, I should have taken a sandwich with me if I was going on this field trip.
Yeah, you understand? He's constantly.
And they're always jokes. It's always quips. He's never quiet. Yeah. Spider-Man in this animated series is never quiet. There's never a moment where he's just like, never.
Do you rub against the fact that he doesn't have a New York accent?
His accent doesn't really bother me. I like the tone in his voice. I guess I like the way his voice sounds. That it's just so iconic that something like that I wouldn't nitpick on. Like in a weird world, I could find myself more nitpicking on the fact that he never threw a punch over the fact that he doesn't have a New York accent.
Yeah, because Tom Holland ended up showing up with his New York accent or his British New York accent. And it was kind of like,
Pretty-
oh, yeah, I guess that's how that should sound, huh? The dream sequence that like we said again, the two people battling for the soul of Peter Parker, the alien symbiote and the spider suit. But like you said again, the alien symbiote, at least in the dream, wins, and in reality, he wakes up in the middle of the city, hanging upside down, wearing this cool blue outfit
Which
with
I
no
want to know
webbing
what
on it.
how the hell he got there while that whole dream sequence.
With no webbing on it. There was no webbing on the black suit.
No webbing
there
at
was
all.
never webbing on the black suit.
It wasn't
there
the red
never
and blue
be
suit. Yeah.
webbing on the black
It
suit.
wasn't the red and blue
because
suit just
it's
drawn
just
over.
black. I think I just had to say that. So yeah, beautiful in its simplicity, but very quickly does Peter lose control having this thing on.
Yeah, and it's
Almost
really weird because
instantly.
it's like Peter Parker is not known for a man to lose control, so I guess I understand that little one-off Felicia Hardy quote, "You're scaring me." But it's like, this is the first time I'm ever doing anything that's even remotely out of character. How am I scaring you? Just calm down, see where it goes. Let me see if I'm enjoying this or not.
No, it's funny.
Oh, God, why do you still have that picture of Topher Grace?
It's funny that you say that though, because in Spider-Man 3, they made it a point to putting him through some crap so that when he got the suit, now that he felt powerful, he would then act out, right? It's like, oh,
So yeah, I understand why Mary Jane would give him that look or say I don't remember if she said it or not, but that whole "you're scaring me" thing when after he slaps her in the jazz club. I understand that.
wait.
Like, remember when he hits her in the jazz club?
Yeah, but the Parker you're scaring me is from the animated series.
Yeah, but I could have sworn she gave him like this look, or said the
look was, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me too. What do you? The look is the guy I just brought here. Is using me to get people jealous, and he's hitting women.
No, I'm
left
talking
and
about
right.
Mary Jane when he assaults Mary Jane. I could have sworn Mary Jane either not only gave him a look, but I could have sworn she would have said like, "I don't even know who you are" or something like that.
And on this episode of Quotes from Bad Films, now dig on this.
Oh my God.
That's what you want. That's what you want in your Spider-Man film, bro. You're all for that.
Do you have anyone with nuts in it? I can make nuts. Go make some with nuts.
My man, he was like pimping people out for cookies. What's going on here? But anyway, in our Spider-Man show, wait a minute, was he flirting with Felicia?
Yes, he was flirting.
And he was with Mary Jane.
He was with Mary Jane. He was flirting with Felicia in front of Flash Thompson.
Flash Thompson gets in his face, and he's all like, "Get out of here, pal." There was a lot of shoulder pushing in these.
Calls him like a knucklehead or something. Oh, he called him what was it? Thick skulled or something like that.
Yeah. What are they?
Some 90s insult.
Thick-headed or something like that.
Yeah. Insert 90s insult here from Saved by the Bell.
Numbskull.
Numbskull, I think
something
it was.
like that. And
he's like, "What did you say to me, pal?" Well, it had something to do with your brain being hard or your head being harder.
And that's when Felicia's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I've never felt more alive." he's all bugged out. We get a cool little cameo of the homeboy from Aerosmith who does the theme song for Joe Perry from Aerosmith.
Oh yes.
The theme song for the animated series
where he's changing costumes. Hey, maybe I should go as the guy from Aerosmith. And then you hear the theme song, the Spider-Man solo.
Yeah. No, I dig it.
I digged Shocker, even though his suit is ridiculous, and he's probably the worst part of this entire show.
Well, yeah, so they start to think that because Eddie Brock was at the scene of the crime, Kingpin believes that he might have pictures that might incriminate Kingpin because Kingpin is the guy who hired Rhino to go get the Prometheum X.
So anybody that has that information is like, nope, kill him.
So follow me here. Kingpin calls Rhino to go get something for him and then calls Shocker to clean up Rhino's mess. So there's these two basically like Abbott and Costello kind of guys.
Well,
they
are
get the job
really treated like Abbott and Costello type. They're treated like henchmen that just have costumes.
Yeah.
Like even Mysterio has gotten more of a respect in that show. Chameleon had respect in that show.
But I also wonder what is Kingpin's pool of allies where he goes, I guess I'll do Shocker. Like
if he owns the police, I would imagine that he has say in who goes to who's in jail. Like he probably has those criminal archives, like how Mr. Sinister had like Alexia Savage's file.
Yeah.
So, and then he was ready to put him in the Rhino costume. So I would imagine Kingpin would do the same thing. Like, oh, let's see, I got a guy that goes around in a yellow outfit, calls himself Shocker. Let's take him.
Yeah, and Shocker's walking down the street in one of those in
Columbo robes.
In the classic, I'm in a comic book and I want to hide. Besides that, the new MCU hat, glasses, and jacket thing. This is the Donatello. I want to hide. I
The
mean,
Columbo. It was
not the Raphael. Remember when
yeah,
Raphael
yes.
would walk the streets?
Long trench coat and hat. The Thing did it in the
Thing would do
first
it too.
Fantastic,
Exactly.
second Fantastic Four movie.
And he did it in the comics all the time. It was literally just Marvel's way of being like, I want to hide.
And you know what's the funniest part is they would always have an opening shot of a big and tall store.
Right.
It would always be the bad guy or the superhero outside of a big and tall store, and you see like their giant silhouette going over one of the letters, and then they bust into the big and tall store.
I feel like wearing something like that calls more attention to you. Like, I would look at you more if I saw somebody in the street with
They
an
even
overcoat.
had it in Honey, I Blew Up the Baby. Remember
Oh,
Honey,
yeah.
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid?
Yeah. I feel
They
like,
took the kid to the big and tall store.
and I also feel like maybe in Little Rascals, the kids stood on each
They go-
other.
they
and
go
had
to the
a trench
bank.
coat. They had like one
No,
of
they
those.
were dressed as Amish.
Oh yeah, they were.
They
dressed as
had the
Amish.
black. They had a black
That's such a
trench
good
coat and
movie.
hat, but they also had like this Amish beard.
That's such a good movie. We got to find a loophole and find a comic for that so we can cover Little Rascals on this
They don't have
show.
no little graphic novels, the little Calvin and Hobbes on your newspaper type Little
Yeah,
Rascals.
that'd be pretty cool, right? With Wishbone, was his name Wishbone? What's the name of that dog on there?
I think it was Wishbone.
Might have been
Wishbone or
Wishbone.
Spot.
There was definitely a Wishbone dog. I know that, but I
We digress.
Yeah, we definitely digress. Peter in the symbiote outfit gets into a run-in with Rhino, who seems to be stealing what you called. What did you call it? Like nuclear rods.
Yeah, they were like nuclear because when you see the pallet,
It's like a
it
pallet
has a
of sticks.
radioactive sticker on it. But when he picks it up, they're like rebar.
Yeah, they're like pallet. There's like radioactive rebar.
You thought it was guns.
I thought it was just guns on a pallet, just laid out like in order. or
willy
something.
nilly.
And he was just gonna get an armful of them and jump away. But he fights Spider-Man both on the spaceship and in this scene, and does no damage to the guy. Like, he literally cannot land a punch, and maybe that's for censorship reasons. But Rhino is in over his own head every time he fights Spider-Man. And in this instance, with the anger, the added strength, the added speed, the added veracity, Spider-Man is beating the crap out of
Oh,
Rhino.
he picks him up, puts him into the ground by his horn, and spins him around.
Yeah, he's literally grabbing him and throwing him into concrete walls. Very similar to maybe what he does with Harry when he fights him in his own apartment in Spider-Man 3.
Well, I could have sworn Harry had a bit of some sort of
Advantage?
combat advantage because he
he
does
loses,
have
he
does
loses
have
that
this-
when the pumpkin bomb gets
Well, you're throwing something at somebody with spider sense.
yeah, he wasn't
Like
thinking too
that
hard
wasn't that was not intelligent at all.
about
But
it. Right.
But no, this Rhino fight kind of reminded me a lot of the video games. Like if you ever faced Rhino in any of the Spider-Man video games, it's always duck.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, it's always
Get
duck out of the way.
He's
It's always
running
dodge.
towards you. Let him get close.
You
Get
have
out of the
to
way.
bring yourself to like these electricity booths. You have to stand in front of it, and then at
I
the
know
last
exactly
second,
what you're talking
dodge
about.
out
Was
the
that
way.
Spider-Man 2?
it's
One of those Spider-Man
it
games.
was one of the Spider-Mans that was based off the movies.
Yeah, I definitely remember that.
And you're on top of on top of a roof or something, and there's like these electric panels, 4 of them. And once you get to like the third one, then you have your little cut scene, and then you get to beat him up because now he's like, apparently that like makes him like not powered anymore.
And so you honestly tell me that live action wise, you prefer the man Rhino suit over the mech Rhino suit?
Man, that mech Rhino suit is just so big and disgusting. It's
But
just
think about the Sinister Six though, like that Rhino, a meched out Vulture, a meched out Scorpion.
well, I mean, if they're
feel
all
like-
gonna be mech, then yeah, I would definitely support a meched out Vulture wings. I would support
right.
I would
Air
support.
Force kind of deal. like-
Yeah,
right.
like how Vulture's wings were in Homecoming.
Yeah.
How it had like little what's it called, turbines on it, where
Yeah.
you see the jets.
Man, what do they call that thing? The helicarrier turbines. Like
Yes, those
Right,
little
right.
helicarrier turns, like, and he's jumping down, and it's like giving him his like leverage to like push back up. That stuff is cool.
Right.
It was just all I'm seeing is that it was just so big and sloppy. At least
I
make it not
just
so
can't
big
see Paul Giamatti in that in skin
Oh no, I
tight
could no,
Rhino
I could
outfit
no,
with
not
the
at all.
eyes on the side of the head.
I can't see that Rhino making it in today.
Right.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, maybe throw it in not MCU, throw it in X-Men
right.
as a mutation.
yeah.
But make it that his skin is just gray and scaly instead of it looking like a suit. Make it look like it's part of his body, like Beast.
Yeah.
It's like he's gray and scaly. His bones are like protruding
you wanna
out
make
to
like
be like a horn.
like a skin thing.
Yeah,
Like
not
Killer
only
Croc a little bit.
yeah, like a mix, like a Killer Croc thing, but I also want for a horn, like his forehead to be just have this one bone like protruding right
I've
out.
seen like those people who do like that weird like
They do those body
dysmorphia.
morphications where they like they make their
Yeah.
bones. Nah.
Yeah, we gotta get on a better subject. Like
He
the fact,
kicked his
yes, he
butt
did, and he was
all
about to
throughout this
kill
fight.
him.
He was gonna throw this
seemingly.
big ass
He was
door
just
on
gonna
him.
throw a door on him, and
No,
he's able to flash back to all the times that people were saying, "You're kind of being a dick."
You know, in
So
one
he was
day,
like,
in the
yeah,
span of
in the-
4
in
hours,
the same day,
and
everyone's been
what was
telling
it?
me
He
he's
had
being a dick.
no. He only had two. It was the one with Felicia, and it was the one with Aunt May.
Yeah, he snapped
was
that
it.
Aunt May.
And he
you don't know
snapped
what
it
you're talking about. He snapped that Felicia. Like,
Yes, because
come on.
teenage angst means symbiotes is taking over.
It's got to be aliens, bro, or coffee. Maybe you need to switch to decaf. But he was driven insane fighting the Rhino, and then he seemingly has a change of heart.
He seemed more insane fighting the people in New York than he did fighting the Rhino.
Oh my god, we're gonna get to it, but he seemed insane fighting Shocker at the end of that.
Yeah, that was
thing. But
talking to himself. I'm gonna tear you limb from limb.
Outta-
Insert '90s threat here.
out of control. Eddie Brock is. It turns out that he is a liar. Spider-Man did not
Dun dun dun.
did not steal the Prometheum X, and he goes to the Daily Bugle to let him know. At several points, he is lifting J. Jonah Jameson or Eddie Brock. That's a real big thing in this. Everyone's just grabbing each other by the scruff and saying, "Hey, you."
Well, I mean, listen, if you're like a 6'4", 265-pound man and some guy like your height but looks a little smaller than you comes and lifts you,
yokes you up.
yeah, that's going to be pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if Peter Parker, just without the Spider-Man suit, just Peter Parker lifting Eddie Brock as big as he is up in the Daily Bugle? Like, it makes sense he pushed, like, Tobey Maguire pushed him up against the wall. They're the same size. But if, someone bigger than me is going to pick me up by my own neck and yoke me, yeah, I think I'm going to have to back off a little bit. They might know a little bit more than I do.
Yeah. Comic book Eddie Brock, always a blonde.
Always a blonde?
Always a blonde. I don't know where they got this Eddie Brock from that wears a turtleneck.
And red hair?
And has like red hair. Everyone has this.
Even looks like Topher Grace is blonde.
Right. Which makes sense. They would really dig in that flat top look. Everyone in this show has this weird like flat top.
That was the G.I. Joe
haircut.
90s style.
Yeah,
That was that you were an army soldier. You were a man if you had the crew cut.
After showing that Eddie Brock is a fraud, Eddie gets evicted from his house. A bunch of stuff happens, and he grows an intense hatred for Spider-Man.
I want to know how getting fired from your job
It just so
allows
happens-
you to get evicted the same day. I mean, don't you have to miss rent for at least like 3 months to get evicted, or break rules? Was he smoking pot in his apartment? Does he have dogs?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, you kind of didn't tell us what he was doing prior to this. And then we would have probably understood why he got evicted. Because
but he's
if
just
you don't
blaming.
know better,
He's just blaming Peter Parker for everything,
It
and
just
Spider-Man
seems like-
for everything.
yeah, it just seems like a bunch of bad luck rolled
He's like,
into one.
first Spider-Man gets my job, and then he gets
And
my
they didn't
girl,
do
and
that.
he gets
He
my
didn't lose
apartment.
he didn't lose his apartment in the movie Spider-Man 3,
I don't even. Did he never even went to that he had an apartment?
and he lost his job in the sense that he lost the job he was going for. Like he was still
No, he got
trying
fired
to,
from because remember he was an ex-Daily Bugle member. He was already pre-fired from before the alien costume because that's why he told Jonah Jameson, "I'll give you these pictures of Spider-Man stealing the Prometheus
Yeah.
if you give me my old job back."
But film Brock was never part of the Daily Bugle. He just wanted a job, period. And I don't think he lost his apartment in that. I think he just lost the prospective job that they were going to offer between
Yeah,
him and,
blamed
Peter.
Peter for for ruining his job, and he blamed for stealing his girl.
In this show, he doesn't have a hatred for Peter Parker, does he?
For Peter,
I don't think
think so.
so.
No,
I don't think until
it wasn't until he got the Venom suit.
until it's revealed that Eddie Brock knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, I don't think we have a scene of them two together.
Other than that, he was just blaming Spider-Man for everything.
And it just turns out that Spider-Man is somebody he knows, which then draws all that out. Because after
Because he was
getting a little
tailing Spider-Man, he was never tailing Parker.
after getting nervous about the whole suit thing, he decides to go meet his other freak friend, Dr. Kurt Connors, the guy who was constantly trying to stop himself from becoming a murderous lizard at all times. He's like, let me go to that guy. Let me see what he knows.
The worst scientist ever.
Takes a scissor and just cuts part of the symbiote off. And
He
sticks
picks up
it.
the symbiote with his bare hands and puts you are the lizard. You're telling me that the symbiote wasn't going to attract
Did you
him?
know a symbiote lizard? I'm pretty sure that exists somewhere out there.
I would start that comic book.
He just puts it under a microscope and he's like, Yeah, it turns out that the what is it like? What are you saying? Like the nucleus have divided.
Oh
or
yeah,
something like that.
the nuclei are dividing. Oh, that was my first
Yeah, I
instinct.
looked at you and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what that means? Obviously, when the
You know
nuclei
those damn
divides,
nuclei always dividing.
that's out of control. And that's I think Peter says something like,
No,
oh
he's like,
man,
I was
that's what I
afraid. Yeah,
feared.
he's like, that's what I was afraid it was. It's like,
I'm like,
okay,
what?
Parker, you're just afraid of nuclei dividing.
What does this mean? At several points, they just take the symbiote and like, whoop, let's put it under this microscope. Yep, it's telling me exactly what I need to know. This alien thing seems.
And then
clear as
then
day.
they put what the microscope was like connected to like a computer. I'm guessing.
They go and a projector.
Oh, it was like a project. That's what it was. Like connected to a projector. That old thing.
Yeah, PowerPoint presentations or something going on. And then he's like, "Yeah, this thing seems incredibly crazy. It seems like it first takes control of the host, then it takes over the host entirely. And if that's the case, you might want to get rid of this thing. This thing is dangerous."
It's like,
he's
no, I
he's
need
like,
it.
He's like, "Bye, doc. Thanks for the heads up." It's like when you go to WebMD and it's like, "Yeah, you're dying." You're like, "Nah, I think I got a couple weeks." That's what he was doing. He was like, "I went to you to find out what this was. You told me what it was, and then still, I don't want to believe you. And I'm gonna walk out."
Yeah, he's like, no, I need it. I need it still.
Later on, he's like, were you thinking on your own? Doc Connors told you he thinks on its own. He told you when you barge into that man's house, like you barge into the Daily Bugle, like he's barging into
He
everybody's
opens
house.
windows in this entire show everywhere. I'm just remembering now almost every single scene of him entering a building. He's always going through the window.
I remember how he found Eddie Brock's footage. He goes into Eddie Brock's house without Eddie Brock knowing.
Oh, he's gonna play hide and seek. Oh my
He's looking
god!
through all his stuff and finds the extra secret valuable film in the head of the shower. Which is incredibly problematic when you consider that a shower has water
I
in
wonder how many
it.
days he has not been showering
What if he
for.
accidentally turned the knob?
It's like, oh no, I forgot that my negatives are in the shower.
Like,
How
what
does
are
it
you
even
doing
work?
here?
Like, I
And
know
who's
nothing
he
about-
hiding them from?
I have no
Who's
idea.
Eddie Brock hiding them from?
I have no
What
idea.
is going on here, Eddie?
He's just paranoid.
Eddie gets into a run-in with the Shocker, where that Spider-Man's able to help, but then it gets really convoluted.
With a load
because-
of puns.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that
You're
stuff
in
going
for
on.
a shock.
Shocker literally shoots everything but Spider-Man. Walls and buildings and vehicles and pillars and windows. Everything in the
His
world.
own self.
His own self never gets to hit the Spider-Man. Maybe that just goes to show you how strong this symbiote suit is. Symbiote.
The symbiote.
The symbiote. But eventually we get the iconic scene as shown in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, where originally it seems as if Spider-Man and did you know they were fighting in a church, Spider-Man and Shocker? I didn't know they were fighting in a church.
I remember a bell tower.
They throw him through windows. They're having a fight, and it's only when Shocker tries to escape that Peter, in his blood lust and revenge, starts screaming, "Shocker!
Oh my
Shocker!
oh my god.
I'm gonna get you, Shocker!
I will find you to the ends of the earth.
And when I do, I will rip you limb from limb."
Oh my god.
Out of control. That's
Out
when
of
that's when
control.
you see the bell. But until then, I didn't even know they were at a church or anything that would have a bell tower in it.
Yeah, it was just weird. It didn't really look like a church.
No,
like
it
you didn't see pews, you didn't see a door. I don't even know where they went to
Nope.
meet
And-
up. I just knew that him and John Jameson, whatever. were-
John Jonah Jameson.
J.J. Jameson.
J-
Him
J-
and J.J. Jameson was
Ian
going to
J.
get his
Jameson.
son back.
Right.
J.J. Jr. Jameson.
Yep. And then they're like, "Well, I can't wait till you're cured so you can go right back." Oh yeah, I forgot. That's another reason why he got outed was because J. Jonah was all like, "Oh yeah, Rhino took it." Remember he was in deathbed.
Oh,
He was
yeah,
like,
he kept being in the hospital saying the same thing. Oh, Rhino.
Rhino guy stole the Prometheum X, and J. Jonah's like, "Damn it! I really had fun blaming." It
I
on
just
that
love
spider
how
guy."
this JJ always is like confused about everything. Spider-Man, what's he got to do with this?
A lot more calm in this than
He is a lot more calm, but he's also a lot more confused. It's like he's always like asking questions like your parents would ask if they walk into the middle of you watching this show as a kid. Who's that guy in the gray suit? What is a Rhino doing?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
does Spider-Man have to do with that?
That doesn't make any sense. Every time they tell him something that's going on, he's like, that don't make any sense. It's like, what? People are coming to you with the exclusive, Jonah. What are you doing here?
I don't understand how the very first season, you see that Spider-Man is helping save your son, and for the rest of the 4 seasons, you're still gonna try and out him as some bad guy.
Yeah. There's a scene in which Kingpin arranges for J. Jonah's son to be kidnapped so that they could try to get the Prometheum X from Spider-Man. And that doesn't work in anyone's favor. Spider-Man's able to get the Rock and escape, and that's when they find out about the half-life of it and all this other kind of stuff. Basically, the Rock is useless. The only thing, and I'm not talking
the
about
Rock
you,
is always useless.
I'm not talking about you, Dwayne Johnson. I like Jumanji. So they were calling Skyscraper one-legged diehard. Yeah, I had to take a second for that. Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Oh man.
Yeah, they're calling Skyscraper one-legged diehard. But you see, Kingpin literally like has a number for everybody. He has connections and machinations, and he's able to call all sorts of weird rogues. There's some like he has like those weird street punks that try to
Yeah,
come
he
and
has a
bang him.
remember those like office like index spindles that are on people's desks, those wheels. He just has like a little index of directory. He has just a little directory of who he's gonna call today.
But there's another name for that, and it's killing me right now.
I know, I can never remember the name of it. It's like a little spindle with index cards on it. Fans, if you know what it is.
No, we gotta find this. But yes, I dug that Kingpin, is not only hiring the it's called the Rolodex.
Rolodex. That's what it's called.
It's not only hiring like flashy villains that have like horns and stuff, but he's also hiring street punks. And people still, he has his hands tied as much.
No, because he is legit a mob boss, but this isn't some like comic book mob boss like what's his name? Falcone or the Black Mask guy. I'm trying to remember. Adonis.
Black Mask. Sionis. Yeah. Roman
Sionis.
Yeah.
There you go.
People are yelling the real name.
Sorry, we can't hear
but that's
you.
what it is.
But no, like it's not like how like Falcone and Roman Sionis are, where they're just mob boss. That's what their personality is as a bad guy. Is their mob boss. No, you can see Kingpin is a legit 1920s Al Capone gangster mob boss. He has cops in his pockets. Yeah. He has this in his pocket, that in his pocket.
He has his hand in everything. He's quick to make examples out of people, and he's quick to cover his own tracks.
I remember in one of the later seasons, I think probably season 2 or 3, where he's throwing policeman balls in the Chrysler building.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
And like this is when they introduced Hobgoblin, where Hobgoblin's main bad guy in this show was always Kingpin.
Right.
That's what I remember.
Yeah,
Hobgoblin was always out to get revenge on Kingpin.
Yeah.
Even if Spider-Man got in his way, he was always trying to go after Kingpin. So I remember an episode where they first introduced like Hobgoblin fully. Was Kingpin was in the Chrysler building throwing out like a policeman's ball or something, some kind of ball or party.
Which also means that while he's throwing this party, he's hiding all the weird machines that he
because
adorn the
press
Chrysler
a button
buildings.
And it's
and the entire robotic tarantula is hiding behind door number 3. You got to be a little bit protective about that.
Smythe is like, asking, why can't I just come to try the hors d'oeuvres? Because I know you're by face.
Peter Parker, in this, Spider-Man starts to attack Shocker on top of a roof. He damages the Shocker gauntlet to one hit of
He breaks off the piece of a balcony.
Yeah.
So I guess concrete.
Concrete smashes the things, and then like dangles him over the edge. And chooses not to kill him, but then the symbiote itself pushes Shocker off.
And then he just shoots a web to save him because he's strong enough, I guess, to fight the symbiote.
Very similar to what we see in the Venom trailer. There's a scene in which the cops are trying to attack Spider-Man in the Venom symbiote, and the suit itself latches out and grabs onto a wall and is able to pull him away from safety. And
yeah, I do like that when like the $1 million bounty is out in like episode 2, and they have those like bootleg G.I. Joe looking
random
street
toughs,
thugs that apparently have like alien technology shooting guns. Like they got like sonic waves and flamethrowers and all that. So I like that he was like shooting like his webs out of like his back to pull him out of the way. And then he'll drop like another symbiote, a piece of his symbiote would drop and like blow up the sound wave thing. So those were the design in general of the black suit. I kind of dug, and I kind of wish that Sam Raimi did more of that.
Yeah.
Like I wish like he would like change suits without having to change suits. The way the symbiote just mimics clothes.
I wonder if Eddie Brock does any of that in the Venom movie that
I
comes up.
think they do, because if I remember from the trailer that I did see, which is probably, I can't lie, I think that is my last trailer I've ever seen fully, was Venom's trailer. But I remember he was in his apartment and all the guys were like crowding around him and he's like, "Listen, guys, I feel a little sick," and he
And then it just
throws
starts
his
attacking
arm and
them.
it
Yeah.
attacks them. It like comes out of his hand.
It is the protector of its host, and we saw that in this show. They found a really good way to show that when Spider-Man was in danger and seemingly helpless, that the symbiote was able to act and able to get him to
Oh yeah,
safety.
even with the sound wave gun like shooting at him, he was able to get out of there. He
And
was
then a
able
little bit of the drop of the symbiote lands on the sound wave gun and
blows up
it
the
up.
gun. Like
So-
that stuff is cool.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty cool. But after realizing that that something is just straight up wrong and remembering about the sound wave effects on the symbiote, Spider-Man allows the church bell to be rung in a very iconic Spider-Man moment, straight from the comics and as depicted in the Sam Raimi film. The sound of the big gongs and bongs of this bell are able to rip symbiote from host, and the symbiote lands on Eddie Brock. In the film, Eddie Brock was just there,
Asking God
innocently
to kill.
asking God to murder in his name, to kill Peter Parker. In this film, Spider-Man, to get Eddie Brock out of the way, has webbed him up underneath the bell. So as the symbiote falls through the cracks, it lands on Eddie Brock, creating Venom. That's how episode 2 ends, with the creation of Venom.
No, it ends with him. Besides the creation of Venom, it ends with him walking down the street and like grabbing a newspaper, flying down, because you know how bad guys just grab newspapers.
I mean, I thought he was gonna say like, "Wait till you get a load of me," like from from Batman '89.
Oh man,
But-
that would have been cool though.
Yeah, but he basically says
Wait till
like,
you get a load of us.
But he basically is like, okay, this is where it's about to start. And so we get the final act in this 3-act story here. The Alien Costume Part 3 starts off with Spider-Man, everything's fine.
Willy-nilly, like right back to normal.
Everything's fine. No more
Doing
alien
John
suit.
Travolta moves in the middle of the street.
Yeah, no more alien moves. No more alien suit. Everything's Gucci. Until...
Apparently Flash doesn't want to kick his ass anymore.
Yeah, everything's good. Everything's good. The alien suit's good. Everything's good. Even though he hung Eddie Brock from a church bell and never went back to go find out where that guy was.
Yo, yeah, he didn't help him.
No, not one bit. So, he then, I want to say, he gets into some beef with Rhino. And
Then Shaka.
and then Shocker.
Which I want to say he's a pretty bad Spider-Man for not bringing those two to jail.
Yeah, because had he done it in the original sense when he first fought them, then he wouldn't have to fight them in this instance.
At least Shocker. Okay, I understand that why you left Rhino there upside down. Maybe the cops would get him. 1 and 2, you did just have some sort of existential crisis of I'm losing my control over my own brain.
Right.
So I understand you wanted to get out of there. You didn't want to kill Rhino, but you got the Venom suit off you. You jumped down. You couldn't grab Shocker and just bring him to jail.
Right. And Shocker doesn't seem to be that big of a threat as far as fighting is concerned.
All he has
He
is his
should've been able to-
gauntlets. So
Yeah.
and those are broken.
And that's also probably why, for a very, very long time, I just always assumed the villains got away with these things, because in this show they're literally never arrested.
Well, I mean, now that we're older and we understand them more, I can see it as they don't get away. The cops probably do come to arrest them. It's just Kingpin owns the cops.
Well, they all got laser guns too, so they can't. How long can you hold somebody
Pew, pew,
back with?
pew, pew.
Yeah. Stormtroopers out there. So those two try to team up on Spider-Man. Eddie Brock shows up as Venom. Venom shows up, bugs Spider-Man the hell out. And after that, we get these horrific visions that Peter Parker starts to have, where he feels like he's seeing Venom everywhere. And quite frankly, he kind of is. When he goes to go on a date with Mary Jane, Eddie Brock is there. When he goes home to talk to Aunt May, Eddie Brock is there. When he goes to look at the skyline for New York City and change into Spider-Man because he's about to go do something, Eddie Brock is there.
He was reading a book and he sees Venom animated
Inside
in
the
the book.
he
Yeah.
sees Venom.
I find that as your cerebellum is now infused with symbiote, even if
trace amounts. Of
yeah,
the
even
symbiote.
if the symbiote isn't on you where it could form again to make a new suit, there's still that emotion is still in your head.
Definitely.
So he still has that you miss that power. And absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes, it does. And while Peter wasn't driven by anything in particular when he had the alien suit, Brock wants revenge. Brock wants revenge on Spider-Man, and the symbiote wants revenge on Spider-Man because the symbiote feels rejected by Spider-Man.
And no one rejects the Venom.
Yeah, how dare you put baby in a corner, said the symbiote. And so...
we are a cosmic being that has been
That's
around
right.
for millions of eons, and we know the truth. And our
tremendous cosmic power, itty bitty live in space. So you,
I like
so
that
you,
one.
you have Venom just crazy bloodlust over Spider-Man. He's beating the hell out of him. Every time Spider-Man goes to web him, he says like, "This is your webbing is trash." Like, look at this.
Yeah,
Like,
basically.
and he's like, "This is like."
It's like, you want webbing? Here's some webbing. Shoots him up, and now Spider-Man is like, contained.
He's all trapped. There's one jaw-dropping moment. I literally gasped, which is Venom is able to put webbing on every limb that Spider-Man has, and then just holds him over a building, and then just takes off his mask. He's like, "Is this your hero?" And I'm like,
"Is this your king?"
And I'm like, Peter Parker is unmasked at the top of a building,
and he has him like a marionette puppet,
and he has him there for like 10 minutes. And so J. Jonah Jameson just steals a cameraman's camera and tries to focus, and he can't get the focus aperture to work.
I don't understand that.
And had he got it to work, he would have found out it was Peter Parker right then and there. But he couldn't get it to work, so he could not find out who it was.
This is the same man that was able to focus in on Sandman's face in Spider-Man 3. You can't focus up like 2 stories.
But also the man who can't tell what a Photoshop picture is. So there's a lot.
Yo, my God.
There's a lot of inconsistencies.
I don't know how he ever became like the CEO of a newspaper company.
He's like, "What's a Windows? How do I get one on my computer?" Yeah, J. Jonah. Hey, maybe he's just a little bit old school, you know.
I don't know if he was around today. He would definitely be slammed in today's politicians called fake news.
I'm pretty sure he was working on the tracking when he was doing the filming there, trying to find out.
He was an intern at Woodrow and Bernstein.
There you go. Or RKO, right? RKO Studios. So you have Peter gets away. He's unable to break the webbing with his own strength. He's able to break the webbing with like a piece of stick.
Yeah.
And so
Balsa, man. Balsa is strong.
Hey, man. It's one of those things. And then he rips a flag and creates some sort of handkerchief mask for himself. Even though, come on, Peter, they could tell that hair from anywhere. And then he escapes. But he, again, cannot seem to shake off Venom. Venom appears at his house. Venom appears when he goes to go hang out with his girlfriend. And they ultimately get into a fight near the space shuttle. Because
the first New York.
They're doing it again. They're doing it again. Even though the last space shuttle thing went horrendously wrong and killed millions of people on the George Washington Bridge and might have created a paraplegic in John Jonah Jameson, we're going to not only do a launch from JFK now, but we're going to name the launch after John Jonah.
Oh, yeah, it's the Jameson shuttle?
Probe or something like that. John Jameson probe or something like that. So I don't think it was manned. I think they're just going to shoot something up into space. And so Venom and Spider-Man are fighting near this Cape Canaveral that is in...
Which I don't understand how... If you know that your weakness is sound waves and sonic sound, how are you dumb enough to let this man trick you into fighting on an airport? Forget the fact that it was a space shuttle. An airport alone would have done just enough damage with sound to stop you. Have you ever been near an airport? You hear that rip in the waves?
Imagine an actual rocket, like an actual space shuttle that needs a propelling force.
Oh, and they were right under it. They should be dead.
To get a propelling force to get out of the atmosphere, the thing that keeps everything here, to fight against gravity. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you gotta load the spaceships with rocket fuel.
That's all you gotta do. And I guess Venom is full of rocket fuel because they fight right near this jet. Nothing happens. But when it starts to take off, the sound does affect Venom. And Spider-Man's able to create this sort of...
And he even says, "Oh, you tricked me. You tricked..." What? That wasn't even enough to trick him. Like, he did no tricking whatsoever. You fell for it.
And it was also stated that the symbiote might have been keeping the fact that sound was its weakness a secret from Parker. Which makes sense because he doesn't want to be taken away. In that's when he
was starting to realize that, wait, are you sentient? Oh, wait a minute. That's what Connors told me, that he's sentient.
But in the same sense, shouldn't it have then given Eddie a clue? Like, yo, he might use sound against us. Last time I was on him, he found out it was sound. he's probably coming at us with some sound. I don't want to lose. You don't want to lose. Let's get away from this damn shuttle.
I don't
But
think this
nothing.
symbiote is very smart.
No.
For a,
Definitely a millennial symbiote. It was born in the early 90s.
for a 200 million year old rock, it's pretty dumb. I mean, it is a rock.
Yeah, there's that moment where Venom is like, we have amassed the intelligence.
Yeah,
of
that's what I was making
millions of
fun of
millennia."
earlier. Where you see a little like a wormhole in space and it's spinning that great 90s graphics.
It was freaking Windows 95 screensaver levels.
It's like, Adobe Premiere just came out 2 months ago. We got to get everything on it.
And at one point, remember when Spider-Man's doing the whole like DNA analysis, he's also seeing some like weird graphics, some weird early PlayStation graphics or something going on there.
And it's always typing a million things on a keyboard just to get one word.
Yeah, I didn't get it, but Spider-Man is able to web up the Venom symbiote to the rocket that apparently then goes up into space,
which is going to come back down because that's what all shuttles do.
Or it'll do what it did last time, which is break into the ship, kill everybody on board, or destroy the machinery, and then cause that thing to come crashing down to the Earth.
I would imagine that it's like, its texture is slimy, so listen, if it's if the electrodes can divide, I think it can make its way to slip through Spider-Man's web and get out of there. And even if it falls from like 1,000 feet up, it's not gonna die.
That's true.
It's slime. It's gonna disintegrate and come back.
Yep, dissipate and then just reform when it feels like it needs to. But we get basically what I call open and shut case, which is a trope that I've been talking about for a while. Actually, since I saw, I want to say Batman Returns when I was older. So basically, there's a scene where the Red Triangle Circus Gang is in Gotham, and Batman basically murders like half of them, and then the rest of them leave. And Commissioner Gordon is like, "Open and shut case, Batman." Like, we're not gonna arrest people. We're not gonna arrest people. We're not gonna find out why they did this. We're not gonna look for motives. We're not gonna collect evidence. We're not gonna put a police tape.
Open and shut case.
Nothing. It's just open and shut. And so in this instance, same thing. Like, open and shut case. We don't gotta worry about that runaway train. We don't gotta worry about. At one point, Venom carjacks like a semi truck and chases after Peter Parker on the train. Oh,
yeah, right on like the BQE. They're just driving 2 semis.
It's like, what is going on here? It's out of control.
Open and shut case.
Open and shut case. They throw Eddie Brock inside the space shuttle where he's arrested, I'm guessing, for trespassing, which is, man, that guy's got a
That means he's going to get out in like 3 days. He's going to do a weekend in jail.
And we get nothing else about Eddie, nothing else about Kingpin, nothing else about Shocker, nothing else about Rhino. And the show ends with Peter and Mary Jane looking at the moon, and Mary Jane like,
they say falling in love is wonderful.
That's garbage.
Is wonderful.
It's not about you. I'm thinking about me. Shut up, Mary Jane. So she's there with her turtleneck and sweater combination. Everyone's digging the turtlenecks in this show.
It was the 90s, man. Turtlenecks was the
shit.
In the 90s, turtlenecks was the thing. Remember that episode of SpongeBob where he was singing about the striped sweater?
Yeah,
one with a collar, turtleneck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They were all in the turtlenecks.
All the rage.
Turtlenecks and overalls.
Turtlenecks and chains.
That's why this show is, I will always say this show is a huge product of its time.
Yeah.
Because just by the clothes they wear alone, Peter Parker always wearing these multicolored polo dress shirts with jeans.
Also, not a lot of nearsighted people on the show. Barely anyone has glasses.
Yeah, man. Like, I noticed that. Shouldn't Parker... Well, no, Parker doesn't need to have glasses. Apparently, spider powers mean that it helps your
Although he
optics.
should probably wear glasses for, like, the whole Clark Kent thing of this all, right? Like, I was nearsighted for 18 years of my life.
Yeah,
and
that's
now,
why they did that little brush off in the first Raimi film where Mary Jane looks at him. She's like, "Oh, you're wearing contacts. I like your eyes. I've never seen him before." Okay, that makes sense.
Of course, you've never seen him before.
Because
you've been headbutting the lap of Flash Thompson. Listen, it's just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot, Mary Jane. It's a lot. But anyway, she says, when looking at the moon and looking at the starry night, it's hard to believe that we are alone in the universe. And then Peter says something like, "Yeah," and then it shows Venom slobbering
in the moon
and yelling in the moon, and that's how the episode ends. We don't know where the symbiote went. We don't know what happened with Eddie Brock. Those characters do return later on down the line. But what did you think of this arc? What did you think? What stands out to you when it comes to this?
The designs, the animation, the mix of hand-drawn animations and computer graphics. Like, you see a lot of the background is computer generated buildings, but you see Peter Parker swinging through as if he's like being drawn. I do like the design of Venom also, that half of him is like outlined in blue and the other half of him is outlined in red.
Yeah.
So it shows like
The duality.
it shows the duality of Spider-Man. Like it basically shows like the personality of who Spider-Man is, not Peter Parker, but Spider-Man. It shows that it's always going to be surrounding Venom.
Yeah.
Because eventually Venom does turn good. Not in the show, but in the comics, he eventually turn. Even in the show, he does turn good. Him and Spider-Man have this mutual understanding of, listen, enemy of my enemy is my friend, so we have to form together to stop Carnage. But as far as the comic books go, he does become a good guy in the comics. So that duality of Spider-Man's personality does always shadow over do the right thing, you know.
And in the same sense, I feel like the way that they recorded his voice, there seems to be two voices there: the voice of Eddie Brock and the voice of the symbiote, both speaking. Unlike where it would Spider-Man.
Well, that's what I love about the trailer.
Yeah.
That was my biggest takeaway of the trailer, was when he was looking at himself in the mirror saying, okay, listen, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it, but you're not going to hurt anybody. And then it like brings him to the wall, like the symbiote shoots him to the wall. And he's like, listen, we're going to do what the hell we want to do because we are Venom. And I'm like, all right, this is actually might be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to fault a lot of what that movie is doing by the trailer. Like, by the trailer's look.
I'm hoping whether or not they get into like the real deep mythos of like the Clintar, you know, the actual race of the symbiotes and where they came from and all that stuff. We don't really need it. They didn't go into it too much in depth here. Just the idea that this alien species has existed for quite some time and probably knows more than other species in here, including humans who don't really ever seem to know.
I don't really
anything.
need everything like explained and backstories and origins of everything. Like I don't need to know the origin story of this beer can right here and how the aluminum came from this long line of aluminum family.
I don't know what you're talking about. That is a vibranium beer can I have.
Vibranium beer can.
Vibranium beer can. Yeah, we don't need it all, especially not right now.
Especially symbiote. I don't think symbiote is something that I ever really needed an origin story. I didn't need to know it came from some Chintari species in like the third quadrant galaxy. I don't need to know that.
Right.
It's an alien life form from space that comes down and attracts rage and aggression.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Simple,
and I can see them
nice.
glossing over all that. And they kind of, like I said, they gloss over in the series, and the series seemed to work well. I really did like I said, I like the voice acting of Peter literally going crazy, out of his mind. He did seem like
it didn't even sound
unhinged.
like the same voice actor. Like, and he was like really like mean with everything he was saying. Like, no, I need to do this and that, and aggressively sounding speaking. Shocker!
Rip your limbs off, kid. He was serious about that.
He was really serious about killing.
I'm tired of being the neighborhood Spider-Man. He was upset. I dug this look back in nostalgia. The show still has so much promise, even though it is cut to ribbons. Like every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds is the next scene when in a completely different place with completely different characters.
It doesn't feel confusing.
It doesn't, because it's all A plot.
It doesn't feel confusing
because it's all A plot. It's all everything is in service to the same story. It's not like we're just gonna go to the side over here.
It's just you're seeing the beginning or the middle of everybody's story.
Right.
So you're seeing Kingpin hire the Rhino, and then you're seeing Peter Parker find the symbiote, then you're seeing J. Jonah Jameson being worried about his son, then you're
Shocker
seeing
dealing with Eddie and stuff like that.
So you're seeing all of that, but it still continues. And it's like everybody gets a chance to shine in these 30-second clips.
And just like the censorship says, there was not a single punch thrown in this episode, in any of these episodes.
I think the only two punches you ever saw was against Green Goblin, if I remember reading it.
We saw a swing kick, a lot of people throwing people into things.
A lot of people throwing
into
things.
And then there's just a lot that seems to be going on in general when it comes to the action scenes there that they were able to distract from the punches. But I liked the nostalgic look. I really liked going back and reviewing these episodes, and hopefully when some more Spider-Man content comes down the line, we got Into the Spider-Verse in December, and then Spider-Man Far From Home. If more details come out, maybe we could find some more of these episodes to chop up.
Oh, I would definitely love to go over Sins of Our Father.
Yeah,
angle.
The Smythe episodes. Yeah,
there was a lot of episodes from like season 5, like where like the world is seemingly like destroyed.
Now we gotta go over their botched Gwen Stacy Mary Jane fiasco, because Gwen falls off the I think the George Washington Bridge, and then dies.
Everything happens on the George Washington Bridge in the show. That's the one thing I remember.
But
Everything happens on that bridge.
instead on this show, because they can't kill people and because of their refusal to use Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane falls off the George Washington Bridge into a portal that puts her in another dimension. And then the same voice acting anger that you got with Shocker, you get with Madam Web. Madam Web.
I remember that
And
where
then
he's
he
on top.
shows up.
Yeah.
He shows up. Madam was like, what?
What do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? Like, the things that are going on in the world are way bigger than you. He's like, you shut up. You bring back Mary Jane. Yeah, he was very
And
upset.
then he like gets sent to like the future where like Carnage and the Green Goblin, the Hobgoblin are like working together. All the villains are like dead.
She also does like the what you would call like the first Spider-Verse or the Clone Saga when she brings all those other Spider people together.
Yeah,
It's
and you
her.
see Ben O'Reilly,
Yeah,
and you
she
see
does.
Miguel O'Hara.
She does all that.
And 20 years before his comic book debut, you see, and there's no verbs, no words, no dialogue. It's just a quick drawn Spider-Man with 4 Dr. Octopus tentacles. So
Very
a
similar,
superior Spider-Man making an appearance 20 years before he was ever even given a story. So I like that. Like, I like that they knew what they were going to do before they ever did it.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can see a lot of, like from what I remember from watching walkthroughs and gameplays on YouTube from Shattered Dimensions when it came out, even though I never got a chance to, like, play it, it seems like a lot of the Sins of Our Father and storylines followed how Shattered Dimensions was, where you see different Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
Because wasn't there one where, I don't remember if it was a TV show or if it was a comic I read, where it turned out Peter Parker was the clone and Ben Reilly was the original
That's
Spider-Man.
a whole Clone Saga thing we can't get into right now. But I will talk to you about that off air, probably immediately after this. It gets out of control.
Because I never understood, because one minute I hear Peter Parker's now the clone and Ben Reilly's the original Spider-Man, but then they switched it because the fans got pissed off.
I got something for you on that. But did you know that Madam Web was voiced by Joan Lee, Stan Lee's wife?
Really?
The deceased Joan Lee, sadly.
Oh.
But I thought that was pretty
That
cool.
man is going to outlive everybody.
Yeah,
He's going to outlive us.
Well, that's because the true key to longevity in life is happiness with comic books than the comic man. And that's why we have done our best to dive deep into all forms of comic book media as part of the Major Issues podcast. We are 43 weeks and running without missing a single episode, covering all things from graphic novels to comic book movie news to comic book movies, comic book TV shows, all things that come to comic book media. And if you like this episode in particular, you can go back and listen to all our other episodes. We have a lot of Spider-Man content dealing with all the Spider-Man talk we were having with The Which Is Worse and all that stuff there. So we have reviewed, if it's come out in the last year or so, we've sat here and reviewed it, and we are looking forward to reviewing a whole bunch more as part
43
of the Major
weeks,
Issues
guys.
podcast. We're in them annual soon.
In 9 weeks, we will have been 1 year talking to you guys.
Major Issues Year 1. That's gonna be a thing, bro. I'm telling you, it's coming. But yeah, look up all the other shows that we're doing. Find some other things that you like that we're talking about, whether it be reviews of Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, or Luke Cage, or the Daredevil Season 3. That seems to be right around the corner. We have MCU movies, the movies of the DCEU. We have the creation of Batman. We have a celebration of black superheroes. We have the best romances and
I
relationships.
think you have the best action comic book movie moments.
Best comic book movie moments we have up there. Most romantic comic book movie moments we have up there. A bunch of stuff, and you can find all our stuff on Major Issues wherever podcasts are found. That's Podbean, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, Google Play, the Apple iTunes podcast app, and Apple iTunes in general. Just search Major Issues Podcast in Google, and we're the first ones that pop right up. Once you do that, if you like what we're doing, please rate and review us. It's the quickest way for us to grow as podcasters and find out what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and truly be able to improve what we're doing here as part of Major Issues. But in reality, what we really want to do is we really want to hear from you guys. So if you guys want to reach us here and all the things that we do at Comic Book Clique, go to facebook.com/comicbookclique, Instagram @comicbookclique, or use the hashtag comicbookclique to talk about all the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things.
And please send us all your emails of telling us to watch Punisher Warzone so I can get this man to watch the best Punisher movie that I've ever seen. Like,
if I have one person email me to watch Punisher Warzone, we will watch it before this month is up. I'll put that out there. And you can reach us at comicbookclique@gmail.com. Obviously, click spelled CLIQUE. Yeah, but I'm excited. We got so much stuff coming down. Like I said, Comic Con's around the corner. Venom's around the corner. We got the DCEU streaming. I mean, DC Universe is up and running, which means Titans is around the corner. A lot of big stuff.
I'm just trying to get into Legion.
Yeah,
So
I
we can
heard.
talk about new things.
Yes,
like
yes.
that. So Legion was the first thing that I threw on, and I got past the first episode. It's pretty weird.
It's insane. It's
It,
absolutely
it's
insane.
it is
I
all
think
over
you'll
the
like it
place.
though.
I do like it because I went in. I'm trying to go into it as a comic book property,
Yeah.
but I'm really more falling in love with just the character dynamics and the plot.
I love Aubrey Plaza. So
Oh God, I wanted to mention that
That's
too
a
when
whole
I
nother
first
thing.
started watching. Yo, you have to watch this show now because Aubrey Plaza's in
between
there.
Aubrey Plaza there and Chris Pratt in Guardians, I'm in heaven. I'm good. Good work, Marvel. You're doing good. Doing good stuff there. But, whew, getting close to 2 hours here, so we're gonna pinch the hose right here, right here. Pinch the hose and stopping the feed to your ears, to your ear holes. I'm so glad we were able to do this, and hopefully we'll be able to tackle more animated series in the future. But as for now, my name is George Serrano, aka the Don,
And I am Dan, the comic man.
and this has been a review of the Amazing Spider-Man the Animated Series story arc, the Alien Costume Parts 1, 2, and 3, and whether or not you can be effectively throwing a punch, whether or not you have no bullets and are all replaced with lasers, whether you prefer an entire rhino suit to a mech rhino suit, or whether or not you yourself were headbutting Flash Thompson's lap in that car like Mary Jane Watson. Remember, we are Venom, we are the Clique, and you, yes you, are worthy.